Alright, in that case, let's kick things off. Welcome, one and all, to the Opus Magnum Weeklies 2025. At long last, we are back on our Weeklies grind set. I am not your host, Zorflax, but I am chipping in for this and likely one other puzzle, maybe more, maybe less. We'll see.
He is host this week as a treat.
Yeah. Just they and you were the Weeklies crew were nice enough to give me week one too, which is really nice.
We wanted
Um,
you to come up to have the opportunity to come up on stage and have people throw tomatoes at you.
I'll let you know. Zorfax decided on the smaller chambers. Go, throw tomatoes at him.
that's right. Yeah, I think Best was the one that wanted bigger chambers, and I'm like, nah, we gotta go like the logistics route. So with Jewel Box, this puzzle had an interesting trail up until it found its way into the weekly week one. I'm getting booed in chat. Um, oh no. So it started. Haxton was the one that originally came up with, and it was like a quite a different looking version of the puzzle that Haxton had originally come up with. Um, it was a tournament draft puzzle, so Haxton was quite unsure about it, and it. I think the original idea Haxton had was that it was meant to be like infinite chambers, or it was meant to be like a lot bigger.
This is a modified version.
And
Yeah,
what happened was because
of
it
the
was
original
like
idea.
no one had really like was confident in the original version of the puzzle, and Bist and I just kind of like entered the kitchen without Haxton's permission and just started tinkering with it.
We started
And
cooking.
we yeah.
You can decide if we cook too hard or not.
Anyway, so when the time came, Haxton's like, "Nah, I'm not using this in the tournament." So it got scrapped for the tournament, and from my point of view, I thought, okay, yeah, puzzle might be dead in the water. I don't know what happened. I just kind of like forgot it existed for 3 or 4 months, and then I get a ping from the Weeklies crew, and they're like, oh yeah, jewel box. Thinking of putting in. I'm like, oh awesome. And then they told me it was going to be week one. I'm like, oh, okay, whoa, week one. I was actually a bit surprised when I was told this would be week one, so I thought the other puzzle I submitted was more of a week one puzzle, but apparently this was the week one puzzle.
And it came very close to being even more diabolical. In fact, I think what was it, Biss? Like half an hour before the puzzle was due to go live, we were debating on whether or not we should have disposal or not.
Yeah, I still think we should have included that. Though, after about like partway through the week, I thought maybe we should have given you cycles instead. Because cycles, if you want to be optimal, you don't use disposal, you recycle. That was another idea. Oh yeah, people are going, oh no. Cycle was originally one of the considered metrics.
It was nearly cycles. We backed out of cycles
But
pretty late.
we also considered a period. But in the end, we figured though both of those metrics might have bottlenecked a bit too hard, and we didn't have time to play test it. So here we go. Were you
Yeah,
supposed to use disposal? Well, some people decided that disposal was they were above disposal and did not need such things.
disposal is an expensive luxury we cannot afford. It's not the cheapest gift.
It's
Glyph.
certainly not needed. Well, it was needed before we fixed the puzzle because somebody forgot to put in the duplication.
That's right. So, yeah, this puzzle had a rather unusual route to the weeklies. It's kind of like it went through quite a few different hands, and it never felt like any one person's puzzle at any point, really.
Oh yeah, actually,
Hmm?
you know what? With disposal, you don't even without duplication, you don't need disposal. Just have a chamber of 12 water or just whatever waste atom is sitting there.
Oh no! Just add a couple of
Aether
extra
reactor
chambers.
style.
should just add
You
a
have
couple.
extra chambers. Just leave them there, Aether reactor style. Yeah.
I suppose you could say this puzzle went through a quite circuitous route to being born, much like your products in the solutions will take a very roundabout route, in all likelihood,
And
to get made.
like 12 waste is like one chamber.
Yeah, life
Plus
kind of
extra.
imitates art with this puzzle.
This is
No,
art,
it's
you
12.
think?
It's two per. It's two waste per output. Per set of outputs.
It's the Jackson Pollock of weekly puzzles.
Mom
Alright.
found the water chamber. What do I do?
Alright, kicking things off, we're going to start with the sum metric. Since I'm probably
Well, you don't have
gonna...
extra air if you use the air salt as air.
True. But, yeah, we'll start with some, since I'm probably going to be slightly more qualified to talk about production sum myself.
There is also more sum solves, so start with some skip
Straight
biggie
up,
biggies
yeah,
and instruction
yeah.
solve.
It was kind of, it's a lot easier to tell which one isn't a sum solve than it is to tell which one isn't an instruction solve.
Yeah, I think it's only biggie though.
Yeah. Starting at 21st place, we'll kick things off at a score of 15-12 with 7T Storm. Also, I've like, since I last streamed, I've like upscaled the resolution, so do tell me if that's a bit weird and you want it scaled back down, but having it scaled up fits the entire chamber, so I thought I'd leave it like that.
There are some UI elements that are offset.
Yeah, true.
For one, the overlay for the stretched for the past solutions isn't extended all the way to the bottom.
Oh wait, I think...
And the chat is a bit floating.
What was that other one you said?
The overlay on the side, the gradient doesn't go all the way down.
Oh,
left.
okay. I think
And chat is floating, but
think I
you
can
know, you
fix
don't
that.
need to
Hang on.
move that.
Whoa! No, I'm not gonna fix that. Hang on. No, I'm not fixing that.
Don't press shift. Or press shift, I don't know.
There.
This is the high production value that we all come to a Zorflat stream for.
Alright. Regarding the solve though, 7T Storm writes, although I still doubt I will make it to first place, I will still say what this does. Here I figured it will require 6 salt-like atoms for all 3 products, as well as 2 more quintessences, 2 silver, 1 gold, all 3 made with projection, and 1 quicksilver. But what do I do with the other 2 quintessential components, you may ask? Okay, let me break it down for you. First, quint split. Obviously, the air, fire, and earth will go to their respective places, but the water will be transformed into salt, then it will be reprocessed into fire, because I didn't want the salt to go first, but anyway. Just from the first split, we will solve the first moonstone, which is the silver one, I'm pretty sure. A half of the first peridot, plus quicksilver prepared for completing the peridot on the second split. Half of the first flame ruby. For the first split, we have also made 2 silver, 1 gold, and 1 quicksilver for these purposes. Second quint split, we are going to need to transform 2 of the quintessential elements, actually the air and water, because we will actually need the earth and the fire, obviously, into salts. One of the salts, along with the fire, will complete the flame ruby. The other salt will be transformed into earth and will help in completing the peridot. The other earth will be used for the second peridot. After the second quint split, we are solving completing the first flame ruby plus first half of the second flame ruby using the fire produced from the water from the first split. Completing the first peridot plus first half of the second peridot plus quintessence for completion in the next split. 1 gold and 1 quintessence has been made during this split. Third quint split, obviously the air will be used for the second moonstone. The water transformed into salt, and the fire will be used to complete the second flame ruby, and the earth will be used along with the quintessence for finalizing the second peridot. Note all hail week 2 computation. Personally, I sure hope not, but because next week I'll actually be able to compete, but I digress.
Zarfax doesn't know.
I don't know for once. This is the first
Evil
time in like
laughter.
this is the first time in literally 2 years that I don't know what the next week's puzzle is going to be. It's actually exciting.
Also, so Moonstone is the one with the moon on it. Flame Ruby is the one with fire. Peridot is just whatever's left.
Well, Peridot's because it's green.
I don't know what Peridot actually looks like.
So we're praying for TI in some week 2. Oh, take me there.
TI and some, oh boy. I'll let you know that the host for week 2 is Kazian, so you know.
So there's a chance.
So you might get what was it? Pitch Drop Experiment 2.0 instead. Have fun.
I'm just gonna hope not. I remember there was a time when you could describe Kazian as a some main. I think you'll have to ask Kazian, but last I checked, he's more of an everything main now. So, but I remember those some main days. So I'm gonna hope for the some. All right, but based off those notes, even this initial solve is already like a complex 3-2 breakdown involving 7 of the 8 chambers.
What if the chamber is just Quicksilver? It's just there. It's vibing. Oh no, it's not. It's not even. It's just the handoff chamber.
This is actually quite a nice solve. Oh.
So Quintessence needs to go to the Quintessence chamber has stuff going to the top left, the top right, and to the bottom left, and the fire gets handed through the bottom left down to the bottom left. And the copper would head towards the bottom left and through the intermediary chamber and up top, and also yeah, all the metals are on the left side, and the Quicksilver is on the right side. Yeah, and the Quicksilver passes through the tiny chamber with just arm 7 on it. This puzzle is basically logistics, but slightly bigger.
It's like
This puzzle is.
logistics.
This puzzle is. Do you remember logistics?
It's like logistics if it was a Dark Souls boss.
So you know you have a bit more options, but then you play the puzzle and be like, "What do you mean more options?"
Alright, we are skipping 20th because it is an incredibly spoilerific instruction solve. In 19th place, Rel at 1406. Ah yes, I definitely remember Logistics very well. Logistics was like the best speed solve puzzle. It was probably the best thing that came out of the speed solving at all. It was such a fire puzzle. So we were trying to recreate that a bit with this puzzle, but I think we...
Unfortunately, optimizing logistics too much was a pain.
No, see, logistics gets away with it because logistics is that small every chamber that the solution space is constrained enough that you don't get like overwhelmed. And it's like, it's kind of weird because a lot of the problems with this puzzle is that the chambers are like kind of too small, but logistics, they're literally 7 hex chambers. So you're only putting in like an arm or two in there, and it's that simple that you can like max it out without it being like a painful experience. This puzzle, what, 12 hex chambers? Yeah, they're 12 hexes.
13, right?
3, 6, 9. Yeah, 13. Oh, can't count.
I don't think there are even number size chambers.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, 13 hex chambers is like about twice as big as the logistics chambers, but that's not like twice the solution space. That's like 10 times the solution space, but not like a open puzzle level of solution space. I was a bit surprised by the reaction, because I also thought maybe something like a dental amalgam was going to happen, where you had like, because with dental amalgam, at least for instructions, you kind of had 3 separate problems that you could break down a bit more easily. So although the puzzle was hard, it was breakdownable. So with this puzzle, that didn't really happen because it's so interconnected with each other.
The chambers feel big, but then you notice that conduits are there are too many conduits. What do I do with all these conduits?
The chambers are both too big and too small at the same time.
Also, some people are in chat going, wait, purification exists? Yeah, it does. Not that this solution has any. I don't know why people are saying that.
Speaking of, Rel's notes read, "This solution sucks. It is 5 a.m. I am so tired. No dancing arms this time. Why would you make a puzzle with so little room? Just to torture me?"
Throw tomatoes at Zorfax. His fault.
Oh.
You know, cost would have... Basically any metric would have been alright for...
Alright with what? Hello, best?
Every metric is... What?
Oh.
Is my internet being shit?
Oh, you dropped out for like 10 seconds there.
Oh. Well, I was just saying how the job...
Right, you dropped out again. That was almost comedically bad timing. No, I don't think any metric would have been alright. Hang on. Can anyone hear me? Hello?
No.
Yeah.
Am I... Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are.
Okay, we're
There you
back.
are.
There you are.
Oh.
It's I think it's your internet issue.
That's a me problem. Am I still streaming?
Oh, no. You are still
the
streaming,
stream's
but
still
our
going.
audio, you couldn't hear us
thank
for a
fuck, the
moment
stream's
there.
still going on. Alright,
So sometimes our commentary would be cut out, and that would just be sucks to be us.
Wait, was there anything specific we wanted to say about Railsolve? Because we've been looking at it for quite a while.
It sure solves.
Yeah, it's also our first disposal, and it's it pulls 4 quintessence and chooses to get rid of 2 of the salt likes rather than use up everything wastelessly, which might... Well, I'd be interested to see if we see more of this later on.
Disposal isn't that expensive. You can make it cheaper by using a single arm and a track, and that would save you on a bit on your sum. So, you know. Let's see if the next solve is within 10 sum of this one. If it is, then oh well.
It's not. It's
Oh well.
in 18th place at 1341. We have Greenfield. Tankless. All right. Greenfield writes in the solution notes. The cabinet I received in the mail kept dropping my glyph of disposal. It is the heaviest of the glyphs, and I wasn't too keen on using it anyways. The layout of this cabinet is very interesting, as there is an almost excessive amount of conduits, and each chamber is fairly small. Due to not using disposal, I needed to make each product twice per loop. Fortunately, the products were small and easy to assemble in the cramped space. The hardest part of this engine to get down is the routing. Minimizing the amount of conduit transfers is of extreme importance. Ideally, the regents would be in the center, but the amount of conduits there makes it rather difficult to place and access the large glyph of dispersion. The symmetry of the engine, the D2 group, significantly cut back the number of unique placements for each sub-assembly, and more or less forced me to put quintessence in the corner. The products also need significant space to be assembled, so I also put them in the remaining corners. The metals I then placed in a more central spot, but I needed the top middle chamber for routing the quintessence, air, fire, and salt, so I placed the copper and quicksilver in the bottom middle. It was then just a simple matter of placing and programming to manufacture the elements I needed and assembling the products. Alchemist H. Green.
A colleague of Alchemist Kazian's, we must assume.
We're all alchemists here.
So, interesting thought that gets raised with that, with those notes, is that the amount of conduits is actually, like, part of the challenge of the puzzle itself. The corner chambers are the ones that have the most space in them by way of having the least amount of conduits. The trade-off with that is that they're the least connected. To put everything in all four corners, like, to get from one corner to another corner is a lot more of a pain in the ass than it is to get from one of the middle four chambers to a corner. So the middle four chambers are kind of more interconnected and will be used more so for routing, whereas all of the actually get shit done cabinets will tend to be the corner ones.
Yeah, I quite. The first thing that struck me when I saw this solution was, even though it's 18th place, I quite like the way that the middle is relatively unoccupied, and it feels like the cabinet is really split into two halves, which do lots of the work, which is a quite striking.
Yeah, the middle is it's like logistics. The middle is the logistics chamber.
Yeah, I think where this this obviously has a lot more, is following the sum philosophy a lot more than the other two solves, but it's still, I mean, the cost is still very high. I assume that's probably just from sheer number
There's
of
a
arms.
lot of
I
pistons.
mean, there's a couple of pistons.
Yeah.
Well,
Alright.
well, actually, there's only three, which there's just so many. There's just so many arms.
What is the cost?
Not much
It's
multitasking.
550.
550.
That's on the higher end, from what I remember.
That's
Also,
Yeah.
all I have to say about this solve is that the name H Green makes me think that Hank Green, the YouTuber, is playing this Opus Magnum tournament right now with us.
Alchemist Hank Green. Oh, that would be a hell of a submission. But nah, an addendum, actually, because this is production sum and not traditional sum, I'm not going to, like, vomit at the sight of a piston, because these are pretty constrained production chambers, and sometimes
You
you
can
really
solve
do...
this without a piston.
You can absolutely solve this without a piston, but, like, in terms of, like, the general, like, the way you would go about the metric in general, I can't, like, we're allowing pistons this week. In some. Or at least I am.
Jorfax still is gonna balk at your plus firsts, though.
I'm still gonna balk at them. Well, actually, no, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about, Bist. What's that
This was
instruction?
minus first.
What on earth have you done?
Sorry, what the plus
Oh
instruction?
wait, you have them.
What does the plus
you have the
instruction
only
do, Bist?
minuses, Mon.
What is this evil magic that you've performed? This is horrible to look at.
Hang on.
I feel ill just looking at this.
Hang on, this game has a plus instruction, not last I checked.
Yes, the instruction that requires the hotkey G.
No, that's the minus instruction.
Yes, I'm going to, every time I'm going to mention the plus instruction, instead of saying the plus instruction, I'm going to say instruction with hotkey G.
The T minus and the G minus. Exactly.
Good thing we don't actually read the instructions.
But whenever I will glance down there, I will...
Good thing
I will be-
Zorflex is streaming, like, something that requires track, I don't know. Something that... area or something.
Alright, moving on. In 17th place at 1,303, we have the team of Avenged Ruler and Skyhawk back for another Weeklies. Technically worse. You thought the last solve was expensive. This is about 200G more expensive.
Oops,
Quite a
all
bit faster.
pistons. Oh, they really are all basically Opus.
Oh yeah, no. This almost plays out more like a cycle solve than a sum solve.
What's the lowest cycle out of all the solves we have?
Lowest
I'm
cost.
curious.
Um,
You don't have to look. I can find out by just changing my own
no,
AHK.
I found it. Should I say it?
Just tell us when it shows up, if it shows up.
Alright, I'll tell you when it shows up. It is not 745G. I can spoil that much. I did just make that point about forgiving pistons, but for this, even for production sum, that isn't many pistons. Looks nice though.
It doesn't have enough hex arms to be a sum solve.
Exactly.
And only 2 of the conduits are left unused. All of the other ones are in use, I think.
Are they?
Yes, it's only conduits 1 and 3 which are not being used. All of the other ones seem to be used at some point in the solve.
2
It is the
dispersion
high arm
chambers.
at 1 and 3.
Oh. And they're in
Oh
different...
wait, there's 2 dispersion? What?
Yeah, both bottom corners are dispersion chambers.
One of them is the fire station, and one of them is the earth station.
Actually, that probably goes a lot more to, like that's probably what ballooned out the cost so much, as much, like that and
Yeah.
the pro piston attitude combined into that. Like, the basically cycles brain solve. Double dispersion makes some ratios work out better. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
It's also expensive, so you know.
Very expensive. Well, that is a pretty swank moonstone bonding. Wow. How did I forget that word?
A lot of the assembly is actually due to how you route your atoms, less so than the actual assembly room. Like when the atoms arrive, when they do they arrive in time?
Yeah,
That was-
the
Oh.
Moonstone Assembly is that's I think the first chamber that we've seen where it's like, oh yeah, this belongs in a sum solve, definitely.
Oh yeah, this very much belongs in a sum solve.
Also, stream is buffering. I don't know if it is for everyone else.
I can still hear you.
Stream is
Stream is barfing.
Stream is dying.
Oh, I can still hear you though. Hang on.
Yeah, but that's Discord's all flagged.
No, we have the opposite problem now.
Oh.
Oh no, it's going now. We're back.
We're
so back.
back.
Hello everyone. I hope you're all still here after the hiccup.
Is it the same stream or did it like? Hang
Oh. I can't hear it.
on.
Somebody said better. Jacob said better.
All right. I'm gonna take your word for it.
We've got quite a
We're still
substantial
back.
amount of delay there.
Yeah, they could probably refresh it or probably fix it. Oh no, it's buffering again.
No.
Everyone pray for Zorfax's 4G.
See, I could risk it and go for the actual just Ethernet connection, but if that drops out, we actually are pretty cooked. It's so over, we're so back.
for now.
Phone call while driving under power lines.
Oh,
Zorflex is going through a tunnel. No. Sorry, stream is.
It's good to be streaming again. Oh, hell yeah, I didn't have to reset the title of the stream and stuff. Alright. And with that dropout, I've lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna move on.
Sorry, Adventurer and Skyhawk, if there was something interesting we did not mention.
Alright, in 16th place, at 12:01, 100 drop, we have Trixie Kagami Alchemy Company. And much cheaper, much slower.
Oh wow. It's a very
So
noticeably
the
different.
previous one had like 418 instructions. That's a lot as well.
Alright, let's get cracking on the notes here. Trixie Kagami writes, who says we can't add some pepper spray? There's a whole chamber right there. I mean, we probably couldn't put together actual pepper spray, but a tank of liquefied Moors would do the same kind of damage. And since we're pressurizing it anyways, an atom every 2 cycles is more than enough for a steady spray. I mean, it'd probably kill you, but why see that as a downside when it could be an upgrade? And then there's a line break to separate the lore from the solve notes. This was a really fun puzzle to solve. That being said, my machine is a bit too intricate to be any fun optimizing, so I'll be submitting another mediocre solution. Let me give you a guided tour though. Let's start with our 2 central chambers. The top center chamber houses arms 2 and 3, the arms in charge of the cardinal hub. These arms can access just enough hexes to disperse the quint and get all the right atoms to the right output chambers. Immediately below that chamber is the foundry, where arm 1 frantically whirls about, making the 3 metals we need for our output. Technically, purification says I should be purifying up to that 1 gold, but the space allocated, at least in my case, says purification can go to hell. Anyway, once arm 1 has finished handling all the metals, it sneaks a quicksilver over to our next stop, the duplication chamber. This chamber houses arms 4 and 9. Due to the way my machine handles waste, which I'm too lazy to change, I technically don't need a duplicator, but I already programmed the thing around it. But because of this, a water needs to become an earth. We need the calcification later anyway, so it's mostly fine. Anyways, 4 manages duplication, calcification, and sending excess atoms to the disposal chamber below. Arm 9's only real job is to get that Quicksilver up to the peridot chamber to be attached to the final product. The peridot chamber itself is relatively simple, but it introduces us to one of the main challenges this puzzle presents. A 4x3 chamber is an easy space to move a diamond around in once said diamond has been constructed. Assembling that diamond in the first place, though, requires a bit of extra forethought. I delegated 2 of my outputs to the corners to allow for more flexible use of my 4 conduit chambers, and it was interesting planning out the build sequence of each one. For the peridot chamber specifically, Arm 6 just makes it a triangle, and then fixes on the last Quicksilver before pivoting everything into place. The Moonstone chamber similarly just places the silver and assorted cardinals in 2 pairs and just connects them. Easy Z shape. However, the Ruby chamber posed an interesting challenge. I needed it connected to the cardinal hub for efficiency, which meant cramming everything into a chamber with 4 conduits. Adding in the input and the bonder only leaves me 3 remaining hexes for arm placement. I was able to use some pivot tech and a very strict build order to just barely squeeze the gemstone through the available space. Overall, a fun and unique start to the weeklies. I'm excited to participate in my first week 1 non-tawny puzzle since I jumped in late last year. The Trixie Kagami prediction for this week is that at least 2 more chambers will be empty at once by the time we reach the end of this results stream. I also predict that we will see at least one solution that handles the bad ratio by just tossing 12 excess atoms into a chamber and clogging the conduits. I only did disposal because I really wanted my machine to loop, unlike some alchemists. Better alchemists. Speaking of better alchemists, good luck to those placing above me. Signed, Trixie Kagami, the Cheshire Alchemist, jumping into the weeklies rather punctually if she does say so herself. P.S. For the unfamiliar, the Solve title is a reference to a YouTube poop, which shortly after the line quoted contains the line, "Fuck Steven Universe," which I felt was applicable on account of we are making 3 gemstones and neither of them are garnet, amethyst, nor pearl. You may applaud. You will not applaud.
I am
Your
entirely unfamiliar
clairvoyance
with
is
Steven
spooky.
Universe. Also, I don't recall seeing any 12 waste chambers because it's just not cheaper. It's not
So,
cheaper instructions-wise, it's not cheaper cost-wise.
yeah. So with this puzzle, as the notes sort of went through, we've got the sort of opposite design philosophy that we've seen already. This one produces everything in the middle and distributes it outwards, whereas previously we've seen like was it the last solve that had the 2 chambers at the bottom produced all of the cardinal stuff, and then it shifted it all upwards. So yeah, it's very different approach. It's interesting looking at it that and from the notes that the most hay is made out of the, I would say, probably the easiest product to make, which is the ruby. Well, I'd say that it's in a small chamber. It's the easiest one to construct.
That's probably why it's
just
the
by
one that's crammed into the central chamber.
Yeah, but it's also the one that they had the most difficulty with because they were routing everything else around.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
In general, the routing is extremely important for getting a good solve, and it's also really complex. So you kind of, every solve will probably have like, there's so many different ways you can route everything. I'll be shocked if 2 solves have the same exact routing sequence.
Yeah, I've not to spoil anything, but I've had a peek at some of the winning some of the like top solves for both metrics, and I think there will be a point where the numbers mod is absolutely necessary because it's so difficult to follow everything if you don't have it. So yeah, excited to see what people get up to.
All right.
Well, I'm just thinking if we can fit pepper spray in here. And the closest thing we have to pepper spray is, eye drops of irritation.
Ah, yes, you know that output could technically fit in one of the
It
chambers.
can
I'm
fit,
not
but you can't assemble shit in it, but it can fit.
I'm not sure you're building anything, but you know, you could let's go for it. Whoa! Okay, moving a conduit was a terrible idea.
Oh no.
Whoa, jeez,
Do you have
game crash.
do you have frame rate patch on?
Yeah.
I think you should turn frame rate patch off. We don't need that
Oh
shit.
no! Oh no!
We frame rate patch. What?
Where's my box of tomatoes? I need to start throwing them.
Crowd, get your tomatoes out. Frame rate patch. Oh wait, no, I could just like take it out. That means I need to restart the game. God damn it.
Well, there goes the game again. Goodbye.
Goodbye, game. We'll see you in another 30 seconds. Frame
Week
rate
2 puzzle tomatoes. We're replacing the puzzle right now. We're making tomatoes instead.
Hang on, I need to put the mod somewhere where I don't lose it forever. Okay.
You could just blacklist it. That's what blacklist.txt is for.
Well, that probably helped an alternate universe, Zorflax. All right. Actually, well, all right. Why did I touch the conduit chamber? Why did I touch the conduit chamber?
I think we should just stop.
No, all right. I'm just not touching
This is anti-Zorflax tinkering.
No tinkering. No.
This is actually not a game crash you're witnessing. We, for the benefit of all our viewers, we attached a small camera to one of the atoms, and what you're viewing is a POV of what it's like to travel through a conduit.
It's because I'm using an outdated version of Forget Scoo. Brad has linked me that in the Discord. That's almost definitely it. Alright. Moving on to 15th place, as shown on screen, Ray Piv. I think that's a conglomerate team name. Yes, J Piv and Rynan are teaming up. 11:05. Let me actually hit play. And the notes read, team up between J Piv and Rynan, although Rynan couldn't help this week. Mostly just a solve to get a solve in. I have no clue how to start optimizing this, and it was hard enough to plan the basic solve. I'm very curious what good solves will look like, as prod eye is always very cool. Can't really hype myself up to try hard without my teammate though, so I'll leave it here.
The overlay hasn't been updated.
Oh, hasn't?
Press the F to update the overlay.
Yeah,
I love this though. All single length arms apart from one piston. No track, no disposal.
For a just get the puzzle solved solve. It's a very good solve.
It's pretty empty. A lot of those chambers are just a single arm moving stuff between conduits.
You know what? Yeah, and like the cost is really not that bad at all. Despite there not even being a single track anywhere, it's all just like stationary arms, and only one of them's a piston arm.
Moving atoms, not a glyph in sight.
Just arms in the moment. I'm a fan of the dispersion chamber, actually.
Yeah, there's the dispersion chamber without any pistons.
No pistons, and it's in a central chamber too, which is very nice for routing, because if you can squeeze that dispersion chamber in a central chamber, because those atoms do need to go all off to different chambers, so getting that into a central chamber helps a lot with routing.
I feel like we'll see this layout for dispersion a lot more.
Tried avoiding pistons mostly, but top right forced me. You did a pretty good job avoiding pistons, yeah.
Yeah, so in this solve, it's the peridot which is causing the most headaches to construct. My guess would be that might be the case going forward.
Even JPip
as
was
the
avoiding
peridot-
tracks as well. This is a trackless solve.
Yeah, the diamond construction definitely, because there comes a point where you've got like 3 of the 4 bonds and the whole diamond needs to be moved around to get that last one in. Alright. No, awesome. Nice clean solve. Moving on though. They hopefully get cleaner because it's some, and some's usually associated with cleanliness, but
Usually.
who knows with this puzzle?
Usually.
Usually.
This is not the usual puzzle. How much do people want to bet there's a piston in first place?
This puzzle's weird because it was such a it sounded like an absolute pain in the ass to optimize, but like it's such a unique puzzle. I don't know. It's got its own vibe completely.
Zorflax wants you off to suffer. Throw your tomatoes at it.
Why are you booing me? I'm right.
Oh, this is piston paradise again. Good grief. Oh, and this one's been signed as well. What does the bottom chamber spell?
Only
S?
only 8 arms though.
H-I? High?
High.
This is high.
That's a high.
Where's mom?
High.
Utopia isn't here to say hi, mom.
Where is mom?
Where's mom? Alright, dark brick.
Utopia isn't here with us.
Well, yeah, I think Utopia's just kind of like... Utopia was very much I was playing Opus Magnum for like fun, and now I've moved on to other things in life. Dark Brick writes, brilliant idea to have the first puzzle in the Weeklies be so bonkers that a brand new mod had to be created just to make it playable. 10 out of 10. Excited to 10 out of 10 excited to see what the devious event organizers come up with next.
Definitely not the first time that's happened. Week ones are kind of wacky.
Hang on, didn't I need
I'm
two?
pretty sure plenty.
Wasn't there like...
I guess not entirely new mods, though I guess more conduit numbers isn't exactly an entirely new mod either.
Yeah,
But,
bread. Oh, sorry.
Last year we had, what was last year? Die Hard? No, last year was Pit Drop and high-end required scaffolding. And you probably wanted elephant mode for it. Last year was Die Hard, and you probably wanted Vitsuku for overlap.
Actually, this is probably like Die Hard. I remember. Oh, jeez, Die Hard was a complex puzzle.
That was silly. Remember streaming Die Hard? Ah, yes, it's flashing and it solves.
Yes, the epilepsy warning stream. This solve is cheaper than the last solve, despite being piston heaven.
I think it's also by quite a wide margin the most instruction efficient solve that we've seen so far.
We've not gone below 281.
I don't think we have, no.
See, this is what.
Vicky has.
See, this is why I don't
Well,
like.
yes, but that was...
But this is definitely why I don't resent the existence of pistons in production some metric, because here the pistons actually serve to reduce the arm count, which not only, you know, mitigates the piston cost in the first place, but also mitigates the instruction cost.
Less
Yeah,
grabs, less instructions.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well that as we've observed, the peridot is a quite hard thing to construct if you don't use pistons. But here we've got one piston producing it with basically no effort at all, arm number 7. Whereas on the other hand, arm number 6 is demonstrating that the Ruby product is actually hard or harder to make with only one arm. So the different products, it's interesting that we're seeing that different approaches in how the chambers are laid out are determining which products are easy and hard to make.
I like the way the peridot is constructed. It felt like it was designed around the final move, which is area brained and also a good thing to do when you're optimizing. Trying to figure out the last step first, because that's usually the hardest. And this being designed around that actually...
Thought process was, Then you figure out thought process was, yeah, fuck it. It looks nice. It works.
All that. Oh, I was giving...
The 3 different shapes. That's good enough. There's also the green vitriol shape that we haven't done. If there was a water product, it would have been in green vitriol shape.
Yeah, so one thing about production sum that differs from regular sum is that the way you think about regular sum is that you kind of mainly focus on the cost cycles trade-off and try and getting both efficient. Area is often treated as the third most important metric. Some would describe it as the afterthought of the 3 metrics. I think that's a little reductive, but it is the third most important of the 3 metrics. Here, production sum doesn't have like a third most important. Instructions is actually quite important for production sum, and it's almost a more complicated 3-way trade-off, because you can somewhat simplify free space instructions by just focusing on cost cycles and trying to get like a good spot on the cost cycles Pareto frontier and hoping your area count isn't that bad. But production sum is both interesting and daunting for the reason that you do really have to consider all 3, because your instruction count can easily balloon if you're not careful, as can any of the 3, and there's still that cost cycles trade-off. So there can often be an extra layer of like half-B shenanigans or whatnot.
Yeah, I think my impression is that it very much depends on the specific puzzle, where the rule of thumbs that are normally the case for some are much less general, and they don't apply to every puzzle in quite the same way in production. So, I mean, my impression is that we will see that the instructions does actually, I would anticipate, turn out to be the least important in some, but much less so than area is the sort of odd one out in free space, but who knows?
Yeah, it depends on... yeah, actually, it is puzzle dependent. Actually, that's probably a good shout, because it will depend on to what extent can you mess around with fractional P shenanigans.
In terms of this puzzle, in terms of some, it's mostly just arms times period.
Yeah, and as Bread points out in chat, there's also an instruction cycles trade-off all of its own.
Yeah.
Alright.
All in all, it's very different from normal sum.
Alright, in 13th place at 1031, we have a name I don't recognize. It might have been in this year's tournament, otherwise it's a new name, Merculius.
That's new.
Yeah, sounds like a new submitted to me.
Welcome to the Weeklies. Weeklies.
Oh wow, that's
I hope we haven't
fast.
scared you off. Is this the fastest? Or are we not there yet?
I haven't actually spotted the fastest yet. We're not there yet.
What do you mean you haven't went and looked for it? Okay.
I looked for the cost, but I never actually looked for cycles. No, we actually already saw the fastest. No, we didn't. I lied. All right, I'm gonna be quiet now.
You know, that dispersion chamber is very familiar. It's just got a piston arm instead.
Yeah, very similar dispersion chamber, and for good reason. It's a
It's-
good dispersion chamber.
Yeah, except you know it can do the handoff for the contestants faster instead of rotating 180 degrees. I wonder if it saves the extra one cost that thing is.
I'm a big fan of the upper central chamber, which has that length 2 arm, bringing an atom over one of the conduits to another one, while an atom is being passed in the opposite direction, just immediately before. That's a quite fun motion to watch.
I didn't know that was possible. Or is it just like do conduits work like outputs for dropping them? I think they do, right? It's only spawning in which they work like yeah, they work like disposal glyph, right? Not disposal, purification glyphs. The central bottom chamber is logisticsing.
Both central chambers, well, as in
Both
yeah, the
both
middle
central
two
chambers
chambers are
logistics
logisticsing.
chambers.
No, the routing shenanigans are so like they're very fun to look at in a. I could like stare at like where the you know follow the fire atom to its journey, and then the other one, or the air atom that has its own journey, and then you kind of piece them all together, and the timings of the different atoms arriving at their destinations is also very important because it completely dictates how you're able to bond the final shapes together, because the timing for when they appear is very important for when you're able to like make movements and all that.
It's fun to look at.
It's an
Good thing I'm not solving it. Those privileges.
Oh. Surely we can save some tomatoes for Best. She was in the kitchen too.
I advocated for larger chambers. Ignore the fact that I tried to remove the disposer for y'all. It didn't happen.
It wasn't just you, Bist. I also thought we shouldn't have any disposal at one point. You convinced me.
Keep some tomatoes for Gooey too.
No, I hate tomatoes. Repulsive fruit.
I don't like tomatoes raw. Cooked is alright. I also don't like ketchup. Too sweet for me. At least American ketchup is.
I grew up with a lot of Italian Spanish foods, so I am quite pro tomato. I would probably not have been
Tomato is
allowed to
fine.
get
I
away
don't exactly
with.
like biting onto a raw tomato like grape tomatoes, or just eating it like an apple. Next bet, eating tomatoes like an apple.
There was there's a famous footage.
Also, Gooey, you're making me say tomato instead of tomato.
There was a famous footage. There was an Australian Prime Minister at one point. He was at an onion farm, and in order to like try and look like he was fitting in or whatever, he like grabbed an onion and fully like just bited into it, and was just like pretending it wasn't an awful experience because he was like a politician trying to look natural, but it was not working because he just bit into a goddamn onion.
You Australian people have weird prime ministers. There's also one that just swam into the ocean and never appeared again.
That one was also, historians argue that was our best prime minister.
The one who just disappeared.
The
Damn,
one
what's
that-
that say
yeah.
about the rest of them?
Legend says he'll return to Australia in our hour of need.
He'll appear at the swimming pool named after him.
Alright, that's enough about Australian prime ministers. In 12th place, we dip under 1,000 for the first time. At 963, we have Cuckoo 52. That is a much lower cost.
How much is that? $390.
First,
You can see it at
sub
lower
400.
cost. A lot of these chambers look empty as fuck. Also, I see the bottom quint chamber still looks familiar, but this time instead of a piston, it's an arm on a track.
One arm each in all the construction chambers, which, as we've noted before, heavily favours the non-Ruby products, which struggles a bit with just one arm. Yeah, wow, this feels really different. This from all the ones that we've seen before, like very spaced out.
This doesn't look like it struggles at all to find space to optimize with, except for maybe the dispersion chamber. I like disposal in a central chamber. Because it was kind of briefly touched on. I remember Brett pointed out in chat there was a piston in a corner, like disposing stuff, and there was a good reason for that piston to not be just an arm on a track because it helped out a bit with routing. This piston, this arm 5 in disposal chamber, is actually doing quite a bit of routing, and is just kind of like, alright, well I may as well do disposal since there is otherwise a lot of room in that chamber anyway.
Yeah, the disposal is basically incidental
Yeah.
in this soul. Yeah. It's a very neat way of doing it. Yeah. Have we seen like people in the chat are mentioning some of the places in previous souls where we might have a better sum solve might have used a multi-arm, but how many multi-arms have we seen so far?
Almost
Quite
none.
a few.
Almost.
No, we've seen
Really?
quite a few, like previously in the earlier songs.
Oh, they were like way
Just
at the
not
beginning.
recently.
They were way at the beginning, weren't they?
Yeah, I feel like for
I
the
remember
last
seeing quite a few.
sort of. Okay, that may be just like
We
the
haven't
first
seen
couple
one
then.
for a while.
We're probably gonna see more.
I'd say like last 5 solves at least have not had a single multi-arm.
Yeah, it's been a while, but it's not like we haven't seen them at all. It's just been a while.
But I think more to the point, like a proper like some multi-purpose, like a multi-arm doing 3 or 4 things at once, which seems like with all the conduits around a very likely possibility. But I've
Yeah.
not seen anything
Yeah.
like that yet.
That's what I'm excited to see as we get lower. Is I expect some really funky multi-arm delivery through conduits.
I think there are multi-arm routing chambers in the future. I think. Who knows? What do I know?
Yeah, hard to fit them, but quite powerful when you do fit them. Yeah, it kind of like if you like throw down a single hex arm, and that single hex arm covers most of the hexes in that chamber by itself, so it's kind of like the defining feature of the chamber. What do I know, the host?
Lol. Lamau.
only knows the results.
I don't even remember the results. But I know Zorfax would be the winner.
I mean, we could do another 0th place Zorflex versus the world part 2. I'm sure everyone would love to keep optimizing this puzzle.
Especially what you learn what's up for next week. Dun dun dun.
I'm excited. Alright.
I'm just gonna keep on doing these threats, and the next puzzle is gonna be the most boring, well, not boring, the most ordinary shit ever.
Well, if it's a computation puzzle, then you wouldn't have to correct your first adjective. I kid.
Flex, you've been in your house, you know when the computation puzzles are.
Pretty much every time there was ever a computation puzzle on the Weeklies, I'm like, yeah, or you. I'm not touching that thing with a 10-foot pole.
It's always
Alright.
week 8 as well.
What?
So granted, you didn't touch. I don't think you touched pitch drop either.
No, I didn't touch pitch drop either.
That was basically computation.
Alright. In 11th place, at 900 flat, we have Mr. Puzzle. Reunited, and it feels so good. I count 5 hex arms in this solve alone.
Hooray! Finally!
Exams are back! Is that the waste chamber? Is that the water waste chamber?
Oh,
It's the water
that's
waste
a
Oh,
chamber.
wow,
Let's
okay.
fucking go.
Oh, that's a...
That's why
wait,
there's hex arms.
This does not spark joy. Neither does that, for what it's worth.
And there's also an air waste.
Alright, there are no notes, which I usually check for whenever I hit the slow-mo button, but I just wanted to slow this one down a bit, because to enjoy those juicy hex arms, and attempt to ignore the waste hex arm.
Somebody did that thing. Somebody used the hex arms, but Zorflex hates it.
Ugh.
Hey, it's not new. Solve like what is that? Visillary anesthetics does it, and that's RPO's puzzle. Blame RPO.
Wait, what does Visillary Anesthetic do?
Have waste on a hex arm,
Oh, yeah. True.
or is it a single arm? Regardless, it has 6 atoms of waste just laying there.
Oh, same thing with Touchstone.
Your own puzzle.
Ugh.
So this is speedy and instruction efficient, but it's still quite expensive. And some of that comes from the hexagons, but there are still 2 pistons. And also, I think we've got more expensive versions of chambers that we've seen slightly cheaper elsewhere as well, like the metal chamber in the bottom right.
One thing that I like to
Yeah.
look for when taking cost into account is to count the number of arms. 'Cause with like a high number arm count, and especially with like the variable cost, they all kind of like will eventually average out. So here, like 17 arms is usually my benchmark, and that's a pretty expensive solve. I remember it was whose solve was it? Dark Brick with like, it was way down at like 400G, and they were all piston arms, but there were only 8 of them, and even though it was like, yeah. So arm count, well, is always something I pay attention to, especially in free space sum.
And even in the quite, efficient chambers, we're starting to see that the effects of the way that you've laid out your conduits is really influencing everything about how you construct some of the products. Like, for example, the ruby one in the bottom left here. It's only 2 arms, 1 bonder, which I think is probably, and we see it start to make the Ruby product in what would be the most efficient way, probably, which is have 1 arm hold the gold and have the other arm add things to it as the gold is pivoted around. But because the salt and the fire are coming from different conduits, the gold, arm 9 has to let go of the gold in order to pick up the salt and then re-grab the gold again. So if, for example, if the salt could come through the same conduit as the fire, arm 9 wouldn't have to do that. That would save quite a few instructions, grabbing and re-grabbing and moving on arm 9. And that's entirely down to the conduit routing, which in this puzzle is just very, very complex. So I'm not at all surprised that something like that might have been a secondary consideration.
It's like 23 some to deal with, well, I mean, 2 of them, 46 some to deal with the waste.
I do really like the idea of a routing hex arm, like this arm 1 or this arm 8. Big fan. Hope to see more of it.
Yeah. Routing hex arms are great. Disposal hex arms, we'll see.
Routing hex arms were why logistics was a fun puzzle almost. Because there was this one hex arm in the middle of everyone's...
Put it in the middle, yeah.
And it was the coolest fucking hex arm.
But was it hex arms that did it optimally though, or was it something like bi-arms or tri-arms?
Maybe for the other 6 chambers, but I think that middle chamber, it was always a hex
Because,
arm.
like, sometimes with a middle chamber, you're not exactly wanting to rotate everything in the same amount of degrees.
That's the fun and the challenge of it, though. You have to, like, plan which rotations happen.
So, like, a lot of people probably did bi-arms or tri-arms instead so they could selectively grab things.
Oh, you mean like bi-arms or
I don't know,
tri-arms?
it's been a while.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. Bi-arms or tri-arm. It might have been a tri-arm or something, maybe.
Yeah.
Alright. Moving on.
It's been a while, though.
But a nice soul from Mr. Puzzle. Very nice to see.
Oh, absolutely.
Mr. Puzzle, however you're supposed to pronounce it.
Excuse me, Mr. Arpeozal.
Alright. Dropping down to 870. Crazy Bot 27. I actually kind of liked it slowed down. Maybe I can keep it like that for a while.
Oh, well done on top 10, Crazy Bot.
We are officially in top 10 territory.
Oh, and that's a lot of unused conduits, I think.
Actually, I might speed this up.
We're in top 10 in the first metrics, halfway through the 3-hour mark. Good thing the second metric is way shorter.
Oh my god, it's already been an hour and a half. Jesus. CrazyBot27 writes, this solve was my second attempt at solving the puzzle. The first one was garbage. Also, it has an entirely unused chamber, I guess. I don't have much else to say about this solve other than it works, and it has a better sum than any of my other solves. I spent most of my time on my instruction solve anyway.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think CrazyBot's first submission was around the 1,100 some mark. So that's quite a substantial improvement.
CrazyBot's the first submission.
Yeah.
Overall.
Alright, couple of things I really like about this solve is that, first of all, that dispersion chamber is a very nice dispersion chamber. Well-placed bi-arm and the piston arm kind of managing everything, but that bi-arm is doing a lot of routing. It's not like a full-on hex arm routing, but it doesn't need to be. It is helping out a lot, and it's also putting in its fair share of work with the with the dispersion output handling, and also handles one quintessence output. That's a really nice dispersion chamber, I gotta say.
We stand up by arms during Pride Month.
Random Yoshi's pointing out the Ruby assembly chamber, and we've got the calcifier. I think this is maybe the first time we've seen the calcifier in
I
the
don't
Ruby
remember
chamber.
seeing
It
it
was the
before
first
the
time
solve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
first time I've noticed it. It is a little, or it is causing a little bit of awkwardness here, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea, and I think there are ways that it can definitely be pushed
You know,
further.
all of
But
the
it's a
assembly
good thing to
all
notice.
assembly chambers look suspiciously similar.
I will say the fact that that air
And
atom
along
is.
with the disposal chamber also looks suspiciously similar.
I will say the fact that that air atom is just is calcified right at the end in the output chamber also means it didn't have to be calcified earlier in a different chamber, which helped, especially because I'm pretty sure that air atom just came straight out of that dispersion glyph chamber where there isn't a room for that calcifier. So it's part of one of the workarounds that helped make that dispersion chamber like work as well as it does.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there will probably be better. I would be quite surprised if we don't see better ways of doing this with the calcifier in the output chamber in the future, because it does seem like it saves a lot of headache. I mean, it's, you know, rather than passing all of your salt lights around, routing them all around a calcifier that you've got to avoid, you save it just for the one spot where you need it.
Of course,
Incident
a lot of that,
calcified.
a lot of that is also like conduit when atoms appear, the timing thereof, and that also affects that like tremendously, because if the timing's right, you got a lot of time to just throw like an air atom unbonded onto some random hex, and then you can come back to it before you have to worry about a fire atom colliding or something. Then that might work out better, but yeah.
Better calcifying is what won me my only first place at tournaments.
Also, we haven't really, I don't think at any point we've mentioned the metal chamber for any of the solves, but this one, I like that it is also one of the routing chambers.
I think that's been a common occurrence, that if the metal chamber is also a routing chamber, because the metals have to go everywhere as well. All of the products require some sort of metal.
Except for the parite, which is also a routing chamber.
Well, I mean, Quicksilver counts as a metal as well.
Oh,
That's
wow, yeah,
separate.
no, right, duh. Yeah, Quicksilver. It's right there. Alright. Moving on. In 9th place, we dropped down almost 50 points to 822.
Be scared,
42,
everyone.
Genius 42.
Oh, and now that we're in top 10, I would like people in chat to predict how low they think the sum get. Well, no, actually, no, that's a bad thing, because
Who's in the
Oh,
top
no, we
3?
do that. The actual people with the low sums just don't talk.
No, alright, who do we
guesses.
think makes up the top 3?
Lowest sum is 420 with 69 instructions. Calling it now. $420 sum, 69 instructions. Best sum is 420. Best instructions is 69. I'm calling it. There we go. Truly being the host means I'm right.
Of course, yeah, no. The silence is affirming.
Okay, right. This is the perfect demonstration of what I've been talking about with the Ruby assembly chamber. So, on middle of the right, we got one arm taking the delivery of the cardinals, and the other arm pivoting the gold around. Oh wow! Okay, I didn't even notice the rerouting of the other air atom that happens with a conduit phasing, I think. But
Conduit
so that
phasing. Hell
we've got
yeah.
calcification in the assembly chamber, and all it does is it takes the air atom to one side, calcifies it, and brings it back over the conduit again. So very, 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 very low key, very
That's a
clean.
nice
Where's the
ruby
conduit
chamber.
phasing?
Also, there was I remember there was like one instance of conduit phasing earlier, but like I had forgotten to mention it. I think it was like Dark Brick or someone who had the conduit phasing. But anyway, no, it was, like, I think it was Crazy Bot. Anyway, but here, the conduit phasing is actually nice to see in such a complicated production routing puzzle. Conduit phasing is usually a big, it's usually really cool tech, and it often rears its head in puzzle situations exactly like these. The idea
We're
being,
doing conduit
in
phase
case
of the week instead of pivot of the week.
Conduit phase of the week. It's not too late for pivot of the week.
I don't think there's many pivots in this puzzle.
Yeah, with all the constrained space. See if I can actually outright catch the conduit phase itself.
It's when gold passes through.
Oh, I've already missed it then. I've missed it again. Alright, wicked. Alright, here on the right, so for those who are watching who don't know what conduit phasing is, R8 in this right chamber, where my cursor is, you drop that air atom, this biarm in the central chamber is about to drop a gold atom. Those are that's the same conduit, that's the same number. They're gonna go right through each other. If you drop it on exactly the same cycle, they swap positions. They just phase through each other. You don't get any collisions, and the machine keeps working. And that's what we call conduit phasing, because, yeah.
Atoms don't exist when they're in the conduits. Don't think too much about it.
It's probably reason 326 why a wiki would be helpful, but they're really hard to do and find the energy to write up, so I can understand why no one's done it, but man, it'd be nice to have.
Instead of explaining it every stream, we're going to be like, please refer to page whatever of the Opus Magnum wiki.
We do sort of. We have some thing somewhere. I forget where it is, which goes over a lot of these technical things, but it's not in quite the same format as like a traditional wiki. I think it's just like a big read.
There is an opusmagnumfandom.com. It sucks, but it's there.
Yeah, it sucks ass, and that's probably we'll probably try and ignore that one, but yeah.
It's funny though.
Hello Jasper says that they see two human-shaped atoms in a one-person-wide tunnel pressing themselves against the wall to just barely shuffle past each other. That's a very
And they
nice
go,
mental
oh.
image.
They go, oh, no, you go first.
Yeah, they do that awkward thing where two of you on the same sidewalk, walking in opposite directions, and you dodge one way, and the other person dodges the same way as you, and yeah.
So like, there's no like secret sauce to this solve. It's just I like its cleanliness, and it's done a few good ideas that we've pointed out in the past. Like it's got the piston in a central chamber with disposal, pretty nice, like it. I like the biarm in the metal chamber, and that helps a lot for routing because that's also a routing chamber. That's nice. That ruby chamber that we talked about, that's probably that's a very nice chamber actually. So it's just like a few.
The notes, by the way?
Sorry.
Have we been reading the notes, by the way? I just remember.
Yeah, I've been reading the notes. A lot of the most recent solves just never had notes, but this one had like spoiler alert in front of the notes, so I was in two minds about reading it, but I may as well just go ahead. Genius42 writes, spoiler alert. This solve was made first, though the layer is almost the same as for the instruction solve, except for some Hexarm bi-arm swaps for single arms and slight instruction modifications to cater for this. Seems high for some, but with 8 tiny compartments, this may raise the average sum. Hopefully.
It's nice place.
I will say, it a little sad to not see Team 42, but just a little. It's
Yeah.
alright. It's alright. No pressure, but it is a little sad.
Biggie's been busy.
Alright. Moving on though, in 8th place at 815, we have Fuyu. More expensive, but this one is rather fast.
This is the fastest?
This is not the fastest.
It's not?
That was an early solve that was 140. That's still the mark to beat. I haven't beaten it yet, but this solve is very fast, coming in at 490G. Now these are some very nice X arms. Oof.
Yeah, I was gonna say the arms 4 and 5. They're having a really good time.
Man, all that metal's getting routed like it's nothing. Arm 1, the dispersion chamber hex arm, putting in a lot of work. It's handling all the quintessence routing. Piston's helping out with a bit of air routing and stuff. That's about it. I like that Arm 6 handles calcification. It's just like a neat little thing because it's a hex arm. It's got a lot of spare time. It can just go and do that. Just do that real quick to make sure the Ruby construction chamber doesn't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I think the main thing that people will probably notice is that this does not make use of the classic one arm on a track in a chamber with a disposal that is very common to some in a production puzzle. This uses the piston.
Because things come from both sides.
Yes, but well, I don't want to spoil it, but we will see other solves handle that also in a more efficient manner than using piston. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I just kind of figured it out in my head. You could save 5G. We'll get to that though. I like the Periscope chamber. This top right. That piston arm. That's almost purely just a pivot arm, but it needs to do one piston move.
It's not quite a Steven piston.
As a near Steven piston, but it's actually very nice. That's we'll name that early top contender for pivot of the week.
That's what we're calling a Steven piston. Even for the people who arrived after the era of Steven.
Oh yeah, so Steven's legendary.
Steven basically
Steven's
invented
legacy will outlive
shitposting.
Steven's legacy will outlive all of us.
We owe our shitposting week to Steven.
True.
Is this the first time the Moonstone's been in a routing chamber?
I can't say for sure, but I've never noticed it before.
It's not doing like that much routing. It's really just it's getting that Quicksilver up to the top right corner chamber. That's only the real routing it's doing, but nevertheless, it's a central chamber, so it does seem to handle the extra constrained space with the added conduits very nicely.
Arm 1 is really neat. I love how it picks up the 2 quintessence and then delivers one to the dispersal glyph, one to the conduit zone.
That's peak something.
Yeah, love it. Love it.
moving on. In 7th place, pretty sure this is a new name, Chameleon at 796. Just solve it. Alright, 2 empty chambers.
Oh, yes, it's this one. Oh, yeah, we were... This was one of the earlier Souls that came in and was an early first place contender for a while.
That's right,
is
it
quite
was winning for quite a while.
Yeah, it was quite exciting to see a new name doing so well straight out of the game. Very nice. On a very familiar Ruby chamber as well. Yeah, top left.
Chameleon also writes in his solution notes, some attempt on limited time. So Chameleon probably didn't actually have like most of the week to try and even think about optimizing. It was just like a couple of days of optimizing. So there you go.
Yeah, very impressive. Very well done.
That is a very good debut. I am very interested to see what it looks like when Chameleon has spare time.
If I recall correctly, it came in day 2 and nothing else since. So, 2 days or less of solving this. That includes her instruction swap as well.
One thing about using less chambers, it means you don't have to use as many of the conduits, which means less routing.
And the cycles, conduits take time.
Unless it cycles. So there's another calcification in the Ruby chamber. And here it's just kind of like ARM9 does a quick little detour, and otherwise the construction is completely uninterrupted.
Yeah, and not letting go of the gold atom until the end also simplifies the delivery a lot, because that's the other thing which I've noticed a lot of Ruby chambers have made some hay over, is actually putting the output glyph in a easy to hand off spot. Like the previous soul, for example, had a piston and a length 1 arm in the chamber, and the piston had to do multiple grabs on the product in the course of building it and then delivering it. Whereas here, ARM8 picks up the gold atom and only lets go of it when it's on the output glyph, which is very neat.
So one thing they're doing a lot of area or cost with cycles secondaries teaches you that is somewhat applicable here to this puzzle is how to avoid regrabs and the usefulness thereof in how many cycles it can cut down actually avoiding the regrabs, because every time you grab an atom you also have to factor in the later dropping of it. So it's more like a sunk cost of 2 cycles every time you even think about dropping or grabbing. Avoiding that cuts back not only on cycles for cycles reasons, but for, it doesn't take me as much time to make this particular movement, so I have more cycles to fit in other jobs. Here you can see ARM8 and ARM9, this Ruby construction has a world of spare time as a result of the complete lack of regrabs.
Yeah, and of course in a cabinet sum, also fewer regrams, fewer instructions, also lowers the sum. So it's sort of like every save to a regrab gets counted twice.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, very, very important thing to be mindful of.
All right, that's probably the most elegant routing we've seen so far too.
Yeah.
All right.
All in all, very, very impressive for a first submitter, I would say.
All right. In 6th place, coming on down to 760. Sock boy, dearest sock boy.
Boy of the sock.
That's cheap. That is the cheapest solve so far.
Is it also the most instruction efficient solve we've seen so far?
Least instructions so far, or maybe so far. Yeah. No. Yes. 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 No. For you. Had a less instructions.
I'm so bad at remembering. But regardless, it's very low down. It's one of the most instruction efficient ones we've seen.
One of the solves.
Now that I'm paying attention to the instruction count, very interesting. I want to say 7 of the top 8 solves all come in at under 200 instructions. Nothing outside of that came in at under 200 instructions. Very clear instruction divide between the top 8 and everyone else, with the sole exception of Chameleon.
Goes to show that instructions are more important than you think in this metric.
That's, of course, only if you ignore the conspicuously missing 20th place solve. I wonder if the sudden drop in the instructions count has anything to do with there suddenly also being 2 empty chambers on a regular basis. Yeah, as Hallie Jessup points out, 5 unused conduits once more. Last solve had a bunch of unused conduits, less routing. Really makes you go, haven't had many notes actually this stream.
For the fact that all of the... sorry, Best, you go.
You go.
Oh, all I was going to say is that for the fact, even accounting for the fact that all 3 of the assembly chambers are just one arm, they are, even with that constraint, very well thought out. The final moves in general, with perhaps the exception of the peridot, and even then, it's doing a lot of movement on the way to the output glyph, but it's taking advantage of that time to do the final bonds anyway. The others have got very, very nonchalant styles of delivery. I mean, the final product is just one move away from outputting. Whereas I think in a lot of earlier solves, we were seeing that people were making the product and then having a hard time maneuvering it around. Here we're seeing that, the Moonstone especially is just... It's very laid back, the way that piston is making it. And rerouting another atom while it's building it as well. It's very, very nice.
One thing in production sum, and this is probably a bit more applicable to free space sum than it is to production sum, but I think it holds true, is that to a certain extent, I always try to think about sum and the whole idea of the cost cycles trade-off as an exercise in trying to minimize movement almost. You're trying to find the best movements because you have to make less of them, because that grants you an overall simpler and cleaner machine, which is like a way to think about how to cut down on both cost and cycles at the same time to try and... So that's something my sum brain does an awful lot, and that looking at the Moonstone construction chamber actually reminds me of that. It's also why the routing has been very important, and why suddenly we're seeing less conduit usage, because that's less movement.
It's getting to the point where the solves themselves are saying more about them than we probably can, because well, that's the way. Yeah, it's the way of it with some, is that it's basically just do the thing in a sort of sensible and efficient way, and there's not much more to say about it. But
As a wise spiritual shampoo once says, the solve speaks for itself.
This, maybe that's why that's the way I haven't been getting many notes lately. But yeah, it is, because some itself is a bit of like an exercise in like a generalized efficient solve. That's kind of what I liked about it when I was first playing the game, and didn't even know the metric existed, but naturally just did it anyway. 'Cause I'm like, I want to try and make a solve that's just efficient, full stop. Like, no qualifiers, no, oh, but no, what about this metric? No, just full on efficient. And some's a good way of doing that. I think TI, in a completely different way, is also a good way of doing that. But that's why with some solves, it's almost like the best sum solves look simpler a lot of the time than like the ones that are like below it on the ranking list or whatever.
I think both of those metrics go for simplicity.
Yeah.
Until Biggie gets involved and fucks up TI, but we don't talk about that.
Unless you design the puzzle around the Biggie bricking, and then you have to simplify the Biggie bricking itself, and then it's still an exercise in simplicity, but then you're just kind of like Biggie bricking.
all right, we're ready for top
Simple,
5.
just brick it.
We are ready for top 5, and coming in at 737, we have Team Hello Jarzian.
Ooh.
That's usually a strong name, I've noticed recently when it comes to Weeklies placements.
Hello, Jasper and Tazian? Of course it is.
Bit of a dream team, honestly.
Beach had only had Team 42. If Team 42 included Grimmy.
Alright, that was not slow. Or expensive.
We've got a lot more routing hex arms.
In conjunction
And also
with the
some of
fact... Sorry, you go.
And
No,
conduit
sorry,
phasing through the hex arms, actually. Yeah.
And also the assembly chambers are also contribute. Like, for example, the ruby chamber is not only doing the 2 single arms salt calcification in the ruby construction, but it's both arms are also involved in. Oh no, sorry, arm 1 is also doing some rerouting with quicksilver as well. So like variations on some of the chambers that we've seen before to deal with different routing.
I like arm 8, this arm that's next to the hex arm in the dispersion chamber under. That length 2 swing coming in clutch with the production chamber walls not colliding, and the extra track movement allowing it to really get to both ends quickly of that particular chamber, and just really nicely helping out that hex arm. Because that hex arm is still useful in 5 directions. Sorry.
This also does seem to be the best Ruby chamber we've seen. It's just the cleanest assembly.
We've seen the assembly before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The routing is a bit different. The atoms pop elsewhere.
We saw that assembly before, but without the extra rerouting. So that is like, yeah, it's like almost an objectively more useful chamber in that sense.
It's interesting that that length 2 arm, it hands off to arm 9 because which then takes it off to the conduit, and it can't just. Oh yeah, that's because it can't rotate through the arm 9 base.
Yeah,
That's
it
funny.
would never be able to access that hex without hitting arm 9. catch the sneaky arm 10 though. That arm only gets access to 3 hexes, but it does 2 different jobs with just 3 hexes.
Also, is this the first external quintessence we've seen?
Oh, the fact that it's actually the input itself is in like the corner out of the way.
In a
that might be the
different
first time we've seen
chamber
that.
than dispersion.
Yeah, that might be the first time we've seen that.
Is he doing back-to-back conduit phasing on that conduit as well?
I don't think it's just one.
No, it is 2. Yeah.
That's two.
Oh no, oh, there's 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah, both water atoms that get disposed are actually phased through.
But if it works once, might as well do it twice.
You need the 3rd quintessence anyway. Yeah, it's a key hex actually. This conduit 6. There's the conduit phasing that happens. A lot happens, and that's partly why the ARM 8 works so well in conjunction with ARM 9, actually.
Yeah, but as is-
Uncharacteristically for the Holy Jarzion, no notes. The solution speaks for
Wait,
itself.
no notes?
No notes. Unless I'm...
Well,
unless
Hala
I missed
Jasper
them.
said both. Hala Jasper did say both he and Kazian didn't like the puzzle.
Oh, okay.
Shame. Shame.
No, that's okay. There's no obligation, Kazian.
Don't worry, we have Kazian written lore coming up.
The weeklies are designed to allow people to not participate and then jump back in later with no pressure whatsoever. So that also applies to the note writing. Alright. Actually, that would actually count for, even in a tournament, it's not an expectation at all.
Yeah.
I like
Does that mean
yapping.
we get to take a break from lore writing from time to time too?
Nah, you do like a 2-sentence shit post if you feel like writing
Oh,
lore.
and my specialty.
It's the best lore special. Alright. In 4th place. Dropping down 13 points to 724. We have Sai Looks Away.
Seeing a lot of 6-chamber only songs.
It's just,
This
yeah,
seems to
like...
be a slight variant on the Ruby chamber.
I think we have our canonical Ruby chamber locked in at this point. I would be very surprised if anyone did any better than that.
Surfing
Yeah.
Steve says 2-arm assembly is the best, and we have seen almost all of these have the 2-arm assemblies.
It's the same assembly because it's very simple. You just get that the gold atom, the gold arm, to just like pivot a
And
couple
all the
times.
output chambers.
Yeah.
All the output chambers are 2-arm assemblies.
Actually,
Wow.
sorry, you guys.
Sorry, there's some really funky stuff happens in the Moonstone chamber. Arm 11 does some... yeah, taking that air random all the way around. That's very fun.
Also, worth pointing out, this is the cheapest sum solve.
Nice.
So 340 was the watermark.
Have we had the fastest solution yet?
Nope.
We're in 4th place, and the fastest solution isn't here yet.
Neither has the lowest instructions sum solve.
Well, they do go hand in hand, I suppose. Cycles and instructions.
No, they are not the same solve.
Well, I mean, I guess
That was
lowering
an
them
absolute
both.
fucking lie. Yes, they are the same solve.
We've already had the lowest instructions solve. It wasn't. We deliberately didn't show it.
Oh, well, yeah. I was trying to pretend that didn't
True.
exist.
Well, I mean, is it the lowest though? We don't know that.
Maybe
We
it
just
is.
know it's low. We don't know if it's the lowest.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Sai looks away. No notes. The yapping may resume. That's the first time in a while I've seen a disposal chamber without a piston.
It's a rarity around these parts. Truly what got this solved into 4th place.
That extra 10 guilder made all the difference.
It's some interesting choices. Some variation in these solves close to the top that we're still seeing, I suppose, is the decision as to which 2 atoms to get rid of. In this solve and the previous one, it's both been both waters they get rid of.
Yeah, it's either
In
air,
other
water,
solves,
or
it's been
water,
one.
water.
Yeah, air, water, or water, water has been the choice that people have gone for.
Because, you know, you can calcify anything you want. If you want, you can also calcify fire or earth, but, you know, that makes things hard.
I think my favorite chamber in this solve is the dispersion chamber, because there is a lot of routing that happens very quickly, and there is no spare time. The arms reset, and they're immediately back onto the next job.
Yeah, very, very full instruction tapes. Nice to see.
What's the arm with the least amount of work? I guess we're not really seeing this at the top echelon of some where there's
It's
just one arm that does one thing.
It's gotta be arm 6, right? It's the one that grabs the gold item, does the least. Either that or the disposal arm, I would imagine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it would be this gold arm. Oh, well, arm 10, which is the arm that holds the quintessence for the moonstone. It has one job. That's probably the least used arm. It's got it. It does one thing, and it's very good at it.
We could all aspire to be more like arm 10.
Man, arm 10 must have so much spare time to do the things it wants to do in life.
It's being paid 20 guilder, and all it has to do is grab a quintessence and send it to the output.
I'm excited. I don't remember who's in top 3.
Alright.
But we haven't seen Sergi D yet, have we?
No. But we're about to. In 3rd place, Sergi D
Spoilers.
and Rebix teaming up, which is a fucking scary team. Holy shit.
To be fair, Rebix didn't work on the sum. Rebix worked on instructions with Sergi D.
That's right. They really teamed up for instructions, but they do count as a team for some as well.
Just because it's easier.
Sorry. In 3rd place at 708.
Zorfak's sneeze reveal.
Yeah, I have in my head, it's a very violent sneeze. I don't know how it sounds externally.
Discord noise suppression did a good job, but just some of it came through.
Good. Good, because it's like a loud ass sneeze. This is the fastest solve. It is also the lowest instruction solve out of the some solves.
So far.
So far.
That we've seen.
Or that we will see.
Who knows?
Oh, another length 2 arm in the dispersion chamber. It's very fun.
There's also just a hex arm. There's lots of hex arms just doing logistics.
There is a shared track between 2 arms. Arms 5 and 6 both need that middle hex.
Yeah, I love this chamber. This is great.
Ooh, I like that track quite a lot.
People are saying arm 5 insane. Which one's arm 5?
It's the length 2 arm.
That's the length
Oh, it's the
2.
length 2 arm? Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, Oh, that's interesting as well. The Ruby construction, it is calcification in the chamber, but it attaches the air before calcifying it, whereas everyone else has done the opposite. I
That's a
think, to this
great
point.
twist on
The first
classic
time we
way
even
to-
mentioned calcifying in the same chamber, it was done after it was connected.
Well, yes,
we
but
haven't seen
that
it
was much
after.
less efficient. That was done in a
Yeah.
much less efficient way.
I don't think we've really seen it since, but now it's back.
In fact, I think the first time we saw it, they attached all 3 cardinals before calcifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy bot.
In fact, there is, in theory, you could like it would depend on the way it would completely depend on the order the atoms came in. If the air atom came in first, you could literally just pivot it counterclockwise, and then the fire atom comes in, you just pivot it back twice. So that is, in theory, like if it's routed that way, a better way to do it. But of course, routing isn't like that, and it's only like 2 instructions. Who cares?
Well, you never
Well,
know.
actually, because we are at the pointing end, maybe it matters.
Also, this is central assembly. We don't see that a lot. For the Moonstone.
The Moonstone, I think it's like the last few solves have been doing it a lot more than what we were seeing earlier on. In a sense, I think it's almost an admission that it's the easiest one to assemble.
Oh yeah, it
Especially, this is probably the best. This is like that's probably the best Moonstone. This is probably my favorite Moonstone assembly. That is a really nice Moonstone.
Meanwhile, Peridot is probably the hardest to assemble.
Yeah.
Because it's
That,
the one. It's the one where you can make an accidental bond the easiest.
That assembly of the Moonstone is very familiar to anyone who did this Suffolk Mercury.
Yeah.
It's sort of 2 arms sharing a bond, just adding 1 atom at a time in that bond configuration is very, very slick and easy to do. Yeah, by contrast, the Peridot is really weird. I don't know that we've ever seen that sort of funky way of maneuvering around a 3-atom chunk like that with a single arm. That's very fun.
Doing it right over the conduit that spawns a Quicksilver like 3 cycles later is gutsy. So
Right, the Quicksilver comes out of the conduit, gets bonded, and then ends up back exactly where it started again. That's quite fun.
I think what I like the most about this Moonstone chamber, it's not because like this is, as you mentioned, like a bonding pattern that is familiar to anyone who played like a Suffolk Mercury or any zigzag shaped outputs. This is a very useful thing. You'll see it a lot. But here you have to kind of work to earn that layout. That the routing has to make it work, and the placement of the conduits in conjunction with the arms, it has to fit. And because this is a central chamber, there is a bit of like extra Quicksilver routing that gets done at the beginning. So everything had to be routed to make this work, to make it as efficient as it is. I think that's what tickles my brain about it.
Yeah, and very clever. I mean, one of the things that helps make it work is Arm 1, making very, very good use of the one the one empty space, the one empty hex around Arm 1 to get the Earth in exactly the right relative position to the quintessence so that it can deliver them both to conduits on opposite sides at exactly the same time. Like Arm 1 is I don't know if it's the machine, but it's certainly one of the most key components in getting the timing right in a lot of the other chambers, it seems like.
That's a logistics ass hex arm. I'm also a fan of the other hex arms in this solve. It's probably key to why this is the fastest some solve was seeing, actually, those 2 hex arms on the right. Because that, the 3-cycle cadence that it earns itself for promoting Quicksilver, as well as instantaneous fix any routing problems. And there's also a simul drop, both the gold and the copper atom get dropped on different conduits on the same time, and it's very quick routing, and it goes a long way as to explain why this is the fastest sum solve. The other would be the dispersion chamber, and why exactly those are such good arms on such a good length of track. Very cheeky conduit phase, easy to miss. That little arm 6 swaps out with the logistics hex arm. Oh, very impressive solve. Sergi D and Rebix write in the solution notes, awful costs, but the sheer number of chambers forces either many arms or many instructions. I hope a fast, low I solve is better than slower, cheaper ones.
Well, you are the lowest instructions from what we've said.
Actually, we've just watched like 3 or 4 6-arm chambers in a row. We've gone back up to 7. This has more routing than the last 4 or 5 solves. But it's just like very quick, and as a result the instructions count goes down with it, which is why the costs is like the high cost is almost completely forgiven here. It's not even that high, but I digress.
No, and there are other solves that we've seen where, for example, the disposal on one of the routing arms might have been in the I think there have been other solves where, for example, arm 1 would have been put in the chamber with the disposal, and it would have been a piston doing the routing and the disposal at the same time. I mean, it obviously can't. There's just too much to do in this solve, but so it's having one more chamber than the some of the other solves we've seen doesn't in any way disadvantage this. In fact,
'cause it so elegantly bears the brunt of the extra routing responsibility, which is why those hex arms are so good.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Alright. In second place, coming in at 699 is Witch Push.
I'm sorry.
700, let's go.
I think you'll find that's.
Of course.
Oh, back to 6 chambers.
Back to 6 chambers.
Oh, there's the 3-track disposal. This was speedy too.
This is only 14 cycles slower than the last solve, almost the same instruction count, but 30 gilda cheaper.
Yes. As you said, this is the first time that we're seeing this arm on 3-track with the disposal. I just want to have people remember this chamber. Just remember this chamber, but for no particular reason. Just remember it.
It's just a nice looking chamber, you know? It's like symmetrical layout.
Oh, and is that our first and only length 3 arm that we've seen?
Length 3 pivot arm. Let's go.
Should have
okay.
been a piston.
Needed to save cost somehow. Jesus, length 3 arm in this puzzle is awesome. In the second
Which
place
push comes up
solve,
with
too.
the wackiest thing.
And that's the only place it can go as well. Like, that's the only hex it can pivot from. That's
That
very-
is so
It could
clutch.
be one forward if it wants to. Can it?
No, 'cause
Nah,
No,
there's a
the
conduit
conduit's
right
there.
there.
I mean, like, in terms of where you can fit a 3-length arm.
Oh.
I guess there's plenty of places you can fit one.
yeah, fitting the arm is not the trouble. It's doing the useful work. Is you know. I mean, this is not a length 3 arm that's there just for the sake of style points.
That is an arm. That's a pivot arm, and that, like, it being a Link 3 arm is because that's the only place that you can fit that pivot arm, an arm that has access to that one hex.
Yeah.
This is probably... This could be pivot of the
Pivot
week.
of the week.
This could be pivot of the week.
And one piston as well. I'll be very interested. I don't actually remember if the top solve has pistons or not. I'm excited to look at it.
Very snug piston arm. It needs to be a piston because that is a very busy chamber. A lot happening in there. Also another clutch. Arm 1. Hex arm.
Red saying there's so much new stuff in this solve. That describes Witch Push in general. You should see him doing burritos, the curves. He's the person who comes up with the wackiest and weirdest burrito points.
It's just like so much of this stuff we have seen before, but it's like basically the way that every chamber works is just completely different, even if it's doing relatively similar stuff. Like even the calcification in the ruby chamber is really funky.
And because the main thing about this puzzle is that every chamber is interconnected, and even with, you know, there only being 6 used ones, because that does simplify things a little. Even then, there's still, like, all 6 chambers do need, like, they rely on the timing of each other's chamber.
With the way this puzzle is designed, there has to be at least one routing chamber.
I like how many of these top solves, what they've done is they've squeezed in the routing chambers into, like, other chambers that need to do other work anyway. Like, 2 of the 3 construction chambers are also doing extra routing here and there. Pretty wicked solve. One more sum solve to go through. And congratulations to Ebenov for taking out our first Weeklies metric of the year. 697 was the winning score. 2 points in it.
2 points.
Very close. Yeah.
At a very similar spread.
Yeah. But, oh wait, you remember I said to memorize that disposal chamber that we just saw?
It's a triangle one instead. Is that the entire difference? Don't tell me that's the
Oh
entire
no,
difference.
that'd be way more. Nah, that's like a triumph. I think it's the first triumph I've seen since like the beginning of the stream.
Oh yeah, this triumph is nuts. Like, watch all the different stuff this triumph does.
Okay, that's a wicked triumph. Oh.
Does the triumph ever pivot? Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
The other pivot is a single atom, though.
It pivots, it routes, it bonds. Jesus, that's a wicked arm.
Yeah, that's very good.
It's,
But no, the
those
reason I
10
bring up
costs being paid is very well worth it.
yeah. The reason I bring up the disposal is that this solve is could be 2 sum lower if it used the disposal chamber from the previous solve. Just placing the conduits in a different spot, because it gets exactly the same atoms. You know, everything else is the same. It's just if it were a straight a chevron track rather than a loop, it would be 2 instructions cheaper.
Can you imagine if it was the other way around and Witch Push was sitting on 2 instructions that could have been saved easily and it could have been a tied for first place? Ugh.
Tied on cabinet sum? That could never happen.
Could you imagine?
Could you imagine? Ignore the fact that it happened last year. Not
Last
last year,
year?
earlier this year. That's Zorflax's. That would be Zorflax's number 0th place solve. Just fix the disposal.
There, just, yeah, Zorflex, 695. We do a little cheating around here.
It would be interesting to see if you could in any way combine some of the ideas from the top three Soul, because each of them, it feels like, has things that they do slightly better. I mean, like this Soul, for example, has just so much less fuss made in the dispersal chamber, although it's not in the same place, and it is probably not got the same kind of heavy duty lifting in terms of like rerouting things. So I'm
this
not
is
sure.
interesting chamber orientation as well. I don't think you've ever seen them oriented like this in a triangle shape.
Nah, it's always either the top two or the bottom two, but this bucks the trend. Evanov writes in the solution notes, really
Oh, wow, notes.
So, yeah, someone actually wrote in the solution notes. Evanov writes, really unsure how efficient Arm 4 is, as everything else can be 20R. Can confirm, Evanov, very efficient.
You should have looked at ARM 10 instead.
As everything else can be 20R. Happy with disposing a mix of water and air, as it allows the quint chamber to be piston free. The fun part was that came from being at a score of 360, 166, 191, and then asking, can this be faster and more expensive?
And that turned out to be faster and less expensive.
Oh no, it was faster and more expensive, but like, I think the point Evelov is making is that a sum main would look at a score with 360 costs and 166 cycles.
Oh, it's 5 costs.
And immediately think that's way too expensive, but he had to make it more expensive because that is in fact more efficient because of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, as a sum main, you're always keeping an eye on the cost cycles ratio. And I think that ratio is a lot more relevant in free space sum than it is in production sum, but it is funny because you do have to completely discard that here and go, no, actually, you do have to make it faster and more expensive.
Dorfex has moved in closer to his mic.
Oh, yeah. It's like I'm in 2:15 in the morning mode here, so I'm leaning back in my chair and just holding my microphone up.
Oh, I thought you were gamer leaning into your microphone.
That's what I normally do. We game around here. Alright.
We're gamers. Gamers with a G-A-Y.
Gaming in my gaming chair with my gamers. You could, in theory, and I guess this will also count for instructions, maybe not, do what we were thinking of doing in Dental Amalgam when all the results came out, and just chop and change. See if you can fit some of the best chambers to improve the winning solves. Miraculously, you couldn't do that in Dental Amalgam with instructions, because Pentapig is just that goddamn good at the metric.
Sounds difficult for this puzzle, because everything needs to work so tightly.
Yeah, that's actually another point, too.
It's more likely to happen in some production, I think, where you have different chambers doing sort of discrete jobs in the most efficient way possible, often, and so it's slightly easier to mix and match between things.
What place are we starting at for this, by the way? Probably not that far down, right? There aren't a lot of instruction solves.
Oh, there are not? Okay.
I'm just going to be away for a little bit, but feel free to
Alright.
start instructions without me.
Yeah, no, sure thing. Hang on. I'm not 100% sure. Tell me if we've seen this solved before. Yes, we have. Yes. I'm pretty sure
Same notes.
this is a sum solve.
Yeah, the one that says hi at the bottom.
Yeah, I had the same.
And then we
notes.
started talking about Hutobi.
Muculius. I think we saw that solve as well.
How many Miculia solves are there? There is a single Miculia solve.
Yeah. Mr. Pausel.
That just is 30 squared. We've seen that.
Yeah.
That's a 900 sum solve. 40 is genus 42. That's an instruction solve.
All right. Yeah, you have to be a little patient with 2 a.m. brains or flex. That's right. This was like similar to the instruction solve, but not the same. That's right.
Similar to the sum solve.
Genius 42 writes in the solution notes actually, this solve is a customized version of my sum solve. The layout is almost the same as for sum, except for some hexarm bi-arm swaps for single arms and slight instructions modifications to cater for this. Seems high for instructions, as although I tried, I could not create something 2T, 3T, or 6T, etc. that would help massively reduce the instruction count. However, it is 15 points lower than the sum solve. So there. So very similar to the sum solve, just a couple of instruction saves here and there. So for brevity's sake, I will swiftly move on. Actually, we might have seen the next solve. It was Sock Boy, but I think we've seen that already. That was the sum solve. Yep, seen it.
And Silex Away has S in the title. We've seen that one. Or regardless, or it's a sum solve.
Ebenov solve coming in at 8th place is just the sum solve that won. There are not many instruction solves, are there?
There are not.
7th
Fuyu
place
says
is
last minute attempt sum.
which push 699. That's also some. Top
Wow.
5.
We're at fifth. We're at top 5 now.
Wow.
Let's go.
Congratulations to CrazyBot27 for cracking the top 5. In 5th place at 159 instructions. Gooey is going to be so confused when she gets back.
They, but yeah.
They, when they get back.
What the actual shit?
Oh yeah, no,
Just talking about you.
we just kind of powered on ahead. I hope you don't mind. No, they were all sum solves.
Oh, I see. Right. I thought surely we cannot have a four-way tie.
No.
Oh my god. Oh, well done, Crazybot, for top 5. Well done.
The top 5 out of 6 people actually even solving for instructions.
Top 5. We don't look at the submission
Genius
count.
42 is the only other person who solved for instructions.
Top 5,
then
we
lower.
take those. I don't want to hear
That's
it.
worse than this.
I don't want to hear it. We take those. We take those every day of the week.
We take that. We take those.
Alright, this is actually like a really good solve too. There were just like no casual attempts at instructions. They all 5 of them were hardcore. Alright.
This is very comprehensible for a instruction solve, I would say. This is very easy to understand.
CrazyBird27 writes in the solution notes. Center left chamber disperses quints and distributes the atoms to neighboring chambers. Water goes to disposal, fire goes to the lower middle chamber, and quint, air, and earth go to the upper middle chamber. Center right chamber produces 2 silver, a gold, and a quicksilver using parity, so the full amount is produced every 2 loops. Quicksilver is sent to the earth output, gold to the fire output, and silver to the upper middle chamber. upper middle chamber, which I call the crossroads, sends quints alternately to the earth and air outputs. Air to the air output, or returns it to sender. Earth always to the earth output, and silver to the air output with the help of an extra arm. If the air is returned, the hex arm sends it to the lower middle chamber. This chamber calcifies the air and sends it and the fire to the fire output. Finally, after all this, all of the atoms have made their way to the correct chambers and we can assemble the products, which was also no small feat. Overall, I'm quite happy with this solve, and I'm super excited to be a part of the Weeklies for the first time. Good luck and have fun, everyone.
This is a half-P solve.
Shout out your top
It
5
truly is
on
instructions.
on your first Weeklies week. You got a top 5.
Let's go.
Hell
And
yeah.
top 10 in the other one. It's very, very good. Yeah. Very clever use of the conduit behavior on Arm 5 to send an atom back through the conduit by just grabbing and instantly releasing. I'm obviously, I don't know if that's shown up already, but seems like a very useful trick to know for instructions in this kind of puzzle.
It's funny because usually I use the earlier, like, the lower placing solves to, like, talk about the general tenets and of the metric and what you try and aim for, and then when the top solves come up, then we can, like, deep dive into the top solves, having already established that. But no, here it's just straight into the top solves. So, with instructions, I'm not sure how applicable the sum techniques that save instructions were, because here we're just gone straight into half P, fractional P shenanigans.
I assume most of the sum solves were 1P.
Yeah, nah, most of them were 1P.
We had one 2p sum solve, I thought.
Oh, no,
early
that's
on.
right. I think 7T
Maybe.
Storm was 2P.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
most of them were 1P.
Yeah, but as Biggie is mentioning mixed ratios, were any of the previous solves, do they have differing ratios between the?
There was one previous solve, and I think that was 1P. Did any of the... Maybe there were different solves that had different ratios because it's just easier than balancing everything out.
It
If you're not
happens-
using disposal.
It happened in dental amalgam. That was a different.
Dental amalgam has one fucking... Oh no, it has chunky Moors, right?
Chunky Moors.
I forgot chunky Moors was an output. I think of it as a weirdly shaped disposal.
Forget Chunky Moors at your peril. It would have been a glorified disposal glyph, except we made it chunky, so you did have to actually program it differently and not just like get away with
Small disposal.
yeah.
Hello Gecko
Okay.
says hello everyone. Everyone say hello to Hello Gecko.
Hello Gecko.
Hello,
Hello
Gecko.
Gecko. Sorry.
Hello,
Gecko.
But yeah, we may have seen unbalanced ratios, unbalanced outputs in terms of the non-disposal solves in some.
But it
In
does.
which just making an extra of one of the outputs is easier.
But it's it's actually a really interesting quirk of this puzzle in particular, that it's probably it's a pretty cool concept for instruction saving here, because you almost, with the different input output ratios of the puzzle, you do kind of have to figure out your ratios and like fractional outputs differently for every output. And with all the routing and timing that has to go right in terms of fractional P, this is an extremely complicated and not very casual friendly instructions puzzle.
All three outputs have a different amount of cardinals, so...
Yep. So you have to work all throughout differently, but you have to get the timing has to line up and synchronize for all three, even though they all have like different ratios. And oh boy, yeah.
Well, I mean, nobody says they have to line up.
Of course, yeah, no. Quickly start. You can quickly start to see why instructions, in particular, earned a fair amount of ire throughout the week.
To be fair, I think lots of people were even complaining about instructions. I don't think most people even tried.
Well, the submission numbers would definitely suggest most people didn't try. Alright, in 4th place, we dropped down 4 instructions to Chameleon. First,
Another
Weeklies.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another one that came in very early.
Purification glyph.
This
Sorry,
was winning
Random
for
Yacht.
almost the entire week, if I remember correctly.
The instruction thoughts came in late.
Chameleon writes in the solution notes, instructions quote unquote optimized with what time I have.
Which P is this? Looks like half.
I have to like look
It's
at
definitely half on Moonstone.
Alright, it's
It's
half,
half
on
on
Ruby.
Peridot as well, and it's half on Flame Ruby. Yeah, it's half.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just straight half.
Yeah, all 3 are half.
Purification is instruction efficient.
I'm
It also
starting...
means only one. It also means only one arm needs to deal with Quicksilver.
I gotta be real, Best. I am starting to wonder if the people would have liked Period better.
Don't know about that. Even the instruction solves, they have been quite high in Period. Who knows?
It's actually amusing that disposal's 1p. I think like everything else is half p except for the disposal.
Everything's half P. Disposal,
Oh yeah, we actually haven't seen the purification glyph all stream until now. That
it
was
is
a
more
good...
instruction. It is. There is a larger case for purification in terms of instructions.
Yeah, because Hexarm go burr.
Yeah. Imagine if Pentapig did this week.
Yeah, even
Everybody will
Pentapig
be
didn't submit.
trembling.
Oh, on a production instructions puzzle.
Pentapig did appear and say, "Oh, unfortunately, I'm not available this week." So he would have if he were available.
Yeah, it actually didn't matter. I don't think the quality of the puzzle actually was a factor in Pentapig not submitting, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Alright. Who's ready for our top 3?
Top 3 predictions.
Anyone? Who's in the top 3?
Know who didn't submit this week?
Who?
Who?
Didn't submit.
Yeah, who didn't submit?
Who didn't submit?
Who didn't submit?
Who didn't submit?
Yeah.
Who didn't submit?
Yeah, who didn't submit?
What are you fucking talking about?
That is not a question, that is a statement. Who did not submit?
I was being deliberately ambiguous as to whether I was asking a question or making a statement. Alright, In third place, Team Hello Jazyan with the easiest third place of their career as alchemist at 152.
Which P is this? Can Hello Jazzian explain?
Ruby's half P. Parasite is half P.
It's all half
It's
P.
all
apparently.
half
Yeah.
P. Except for the disposal glyph. Purification.
Nikki going, how are we still in the 150s?
Let's.
Look, not
Let-
many people submitted.
There were 2 serious attempts at instructions, and they are coming up.
Hey, these are half P solves. They're
These,
serious.
all right. Well, sorry. Yeah, no.
They were, all right. Let me qualify that statement a bit. I mean, like, not like the last 3 were serious submissions, but the top 2 are like,
Our tryhards.
yeah, like, I'm trying to find a different way to say it, but tryhards is what I am getting at. Actually, no, yeah, those remembering the solution notes from the last couple of solves, I actually don't think we have to call these series attempts.
Actually,
There's very definitely a there's an amount of effort that it takes just to get like a basic 1p instruction solved.
Yeah,
and
actually-
there's another amount of effort it required to take it to a half p, and
And there's
am
another amount of
anticipating
effort to
yours-
do whatever the top 2 did.
Yes, and I think it will be very noticeable what the difference is.
The noticeable difference is, according to Biggie, plenty of instructions.
all right. With
And
that,
we shall shortly be finding out.
very shortly. All right, Professor, find out who won. In
With the
second
amount of
place,
people that we haven't seen, I don't think we actually know who won.
in second,
Unless it's
We
Biggie.
know.
in second place, at 120 instructions, Biggie.
Biggie.
Oh, we're still in the 120s.
Angry emoji. Oof.
The Angie.
Angry. Oh, I hate to. You hate to say it. Not from Biggie. It hurts more coming from Biggie.
The fuck is this?
Oh, I feel I have failed.
Biggie, care to explain the P's that are going on here?
Alright, while that happens, I'll read out the solution notes. Biggie writes, 1 out of 8 chambers is instructions optimized. It's the top left one. Wasteless. 3, 3,
You mean
1,
the one that's empty?
the one that's empty. Wasteless. 3, 3, 1. But way too much process. I can't believe I fell short of even my sub 100 instruction goal.
Oh
100,
yeah, this is disposal less.
120 is at least a pretty number. I hope this puzzle frustrated everyone equally. Oh.
I don't know about equally, but most people were frustrated.
Yeah, Biggie wasn't here for the tomato throwing at the beginning of the stream.
Oh, there was a mass
Oh yeah,
tomato.
Biggie, get your tomato, so do my Zorflex. He's the reason we have small chambers. Go.
These used to be the 5 wides, and I'm like, no, actually, it'd be cool if it was more like logistics. Let's make the chambers smaller.
Yeah. Tomato, tomato. How do you, Kazan, how are you pronouncing all 3 of those tomatoes and tomatoes?
Tomato, tomato, tomato.
Tomato.
Tomato. I feel worse because I don't think this puzzle frustrated everyone equally. Because I am pretty sure the sum optimizers were not this frustrated.
Also, thanks, Kazian. You know, I saw the thank you Zorflax in the bottom on Zorflax stream, and I thought it was 2 tomatoes instead of the heart emotes. Wait, is there a tomato emote? Does that exist?
I think so. It should be tomato sauce at least. Alright, so it is actually super interesting that
There is an tomato emote.
it is actually super interesting that this is a wasteless solve, all things considered. As the notes mention, there is a 3 to 3 to 1 ratio happening here.
Yeah, and it's the ruby which is the 1/6, and there is an astonishing, I would say, route that the gold atom takes to end up in the product. See if you can spot where
God.
it comes from to start with.
There's only one place that metals start with, and it's the exact opposite part of the solution.
Yeah, okay, it's about to. Where does the copper atom go? You think?
Oh.
No, it's going back the other way.
Oi.
No, oh yeah, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, blink and you'll miss it. Okay, I was trying to grok how the ratios lined up for the fire atoms to also work and not like collide or anything. And there is one ghost grab that happens. No, there are multiple ghost grabs. My bad. Okay, it's every second. Okay, alright, yeah.
Oh, have we mentioned the fact that it's a permanent Earth duplication?
No,
in
we
the
haven't.
middle
That's
right neighbor?
no, we haven't. That's how that.
This is the difference that tryharding this puzzle makes.
Yeah, just that's the first time we've seen the duplication glyph all stream.
Yeah.
Was it? No, we've seen plenty of duplicating.
Oh wait, no, wait. I don't know where my brain went. No, yeah, this type of duplicating is different. Like with a catalyst.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it with a catalyst. Wait, are you sure about that, Bist?
Oh yeah, no, there's been plenty of solves that didn't have disposal. Those all need duplication.
Plenty sounds like it was like 2 or 3.
No, there was
Yeah,
several.
it's. I definitely think we've seen it fewer times than Bist is maybe implying. But no, we have seen it before. It was just quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was like long ago that my brain's like, like, hang on, that looks awesome and novel.
Like the very first, at the very least, the very first solve we saw today had duplication.
In hindsight, that very first solve was actually quite unique.
That's supposed to be a good thing or a bad thing.
Good thing. Sorry, no, I actually meant that as a compliment. No, that good thing. It was it was more interesting in hindsight than I initially gave it credit for.
This solve is very unique.
Sorry, I
It's a
should.
fucking
I
link
kind
in the
of.
middle.
I left that one a lot more vague than I had meant to.
There is a length 3 arm in the middle over there. Just vibing.
Second length 3 arm of the stream. Let's go.
Mhm. Well, shall we
Biggie's
move
saying
on?
that she could probably have knocked off another 10 instructions with more
Yeah.
focus. Would that have won?
In
Well.
first place, at 116 instructions, Sergi D and
4.
Rebix is our winner.
4 instructions.
It was actually close.
Biggie was expecting
Oh,
something like
bad luck, Biggie.
Pentafig with a sub 100. Fortunately, your competitor is now Pentapig this week.
It took me quite a long time watching this solve before the stream started to really feel like I had a handle on what it was doing. Because there is just there's a lot. There is a lot of wackiness here.
Biggie
And no
has the
notes,
most optimal
so-
single chamber. So true.
No,
Zero instruction chamber.
no instructions. Sorry, no notes. So the solution speaks for itself, obviously.
It sure is speaking.
Yeah, so this does the same thing. It duplicates the Earth, but it simply uses one Earth to duplicate onto a calcified water every time. There's no permanent catalyst.
Oh, so
Yeah, so that hex arm in the bottom left is taking care of the dupe.
So those Earth atoms stay around for an extra loop because they need to catalyze the next one that was a water atom.
Yeah, so I think I'm right in saying this is 1/2 P on the peridot and 1/6 P on both the moonstone and the ruby.
Yeah, actually, I think you've got that in one. Also, multi-bonder. First time all stream.
Wow. We're seeing a lot of first in instructions. Too bad we didn't have that many
Man,
instructions.
this seems like it would have been a cool metric to, like, watch, but not play.
It's a very, very smart use of a multi-bond. I mean, it saves so much work.
It's actually
having
such a cool
multi-bonder in
bonder too, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume this is just all half P. No. No, it's not.
What?
No, the
What P is
the
this?
peridot is the peridot is 1/2 P, and the other two products are 1/6 P.
I see.
Yeah, and it goes about those in completely different ways to the way Biggie did 1/6 in the Ruby one, I think.
So I think Big E's. I could be wrong here. Do tell me if I'm wrong. I think Big E's dropped a dispersion every loop. This one drops one dispersion every 2 loops.
Oh, yeah, we should show next week's puzzle before.
Oh, that
If I-
means you'll have to activate it and send me the.
Yeah, I'll activate it. No, you just have to just open the link.
Yeah, actually, you just like yeah, Discord me the raw link and I'll just post it.
I'll send it to you early.
Yeah,
As a
it's
treat.
one dispersion every 3 loops rather than
Every 3 loops.
two.
Oh.
Yeah.
Also, does that mean Biggie's was 1 every 2 and this is 1 every 3? Okay, yeah.
Everybody get ready for a Discord ping in the stream. Where's Zorflex?
I haven't even begun to think about the metal routing for either of the, like, top instruction solves. Actually, that seems like one of the most complicated parts of the entire solve both times. I was like completely failing to wrap my head around the metal routing.
Yeah. I mean, this one is fairly self-explanatory. I mean, arms 1 and 3 are effectively 3 triarms. Arm 1 being 2 triarms and arm 3 being 1. So by rotating twice, arm 1 separates the quicksilver and metal out so that they behave differently. And then arm 2 is there to take a quicksilver and shunt it into a conduit. Once every 3 loops? Or 2? No, it's once every 3.
It's actually cool how it special cases out the every second Quicksilver, depending on whether there is a metal atom below it that, like, caused it to disappear via projection or not. Which is founded on the fact that Arm 3 is a tri-arm and will grab copper once every 2. So every second Quicksilver gets filtered out that way. And Arm 4's interesting movements is almost designed specifically in mind to make sure that the Quicksilver, like, lingers around for an extra loop before it drops to give that, like, diamond Perrottet multi-bonder setup time to do its work. And that funky movement also just happens to route, like 3 different other things at once. Yeah, the routing is intensely intricate for both instruction solves. Alright. As I mentioned before, Sergi and Rebix is an absolute frightening combination. Very well deserved win. Even just going for a proper instruction solve was an absolute achievement. Alright, let's
well done everyone. Well done everyone who submitted this week. I mean, it's definitely a very scary thing to be faced with week 1.
Alright.
Are we ready to reveal week 2?
Just putting it in my folder.
He putting it in he folder.
Sand of suspension.
Oh, if you're quick, Zorflax, we can get this stream under 3 hours. You've got 59 seconds.
There's showcases.
Don't think that's happening. We have showcases.
Oh, drat.
Bonder, anime, and Kals. Whoa, this looks, yeah, okay. I can get behind this.
This is a Kazian puzzle.
Yeah.
The metrics are TI and area.
Oh.
Big ear and area, main.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say TI and some. Oh.
No, it's not some.
No, that's TI and area. Shit, you have my attention.
Oh no, I am tempted to participate.
That's all right. If the stream feng shui is any different from that, I will complain.
Well, the actual feng shui on the web
You're
page
telling
is
me it
different.
wasn't that? That's my best ever feng shui. TI and area. Okay. Oh. We are so back. It has been like
We are so back.
it's been like 2.5 years since I've gotten to compete. We are so fucking back.
Fun.
All right. We have showcases to run. In the meantime,
That is where I'll be taking off for now, though. It is getting late for me. I know it's later for you, but good luck.
That's all right. Appreciate the
All
help,
right,
by
I'll
the
be
way.
seeing y'all.
Bye bye, bits.
See ya.
Have fun with the week. Bye.
Bye. I just have to do a quick rejiggering. All right. Starting us off is dark brick with what that is. First of all, that's a beautiful instructions tray. Jeez, that's a high effort shitpost. Hang on, this is awesome. Whew. I would almost ping Goodbye Galaxy. That's Wait, did the internet drop out? Zorflex, you need to rejoin the call. Oh. I assume Twitch could hear me the whole time?
So. Oh, good grief.
Okay, we are so back.
Sorry. Okay,
Oh,
I'm
that
going,
was a bit.
I'm
That was
going for
Bist.
real now.
Oh.
Yeah, Bist, Agent of Chaos.
I ended it, since I'm the one who started, I have the permission to end the stage. So, oops. Anyways, let's hope that doesn't happen this time. Bye!
It was a real shame that because I'm pretty sure my internet still dropped out. Right, just in time. I think someone mentioned something about a tribonder, but I didn't say it at all. I'm sure you were referring to Jewelbox, because I know Jewelbox has a tribonder. So does this solve have a tribonder though? Not sure why you'd bring that up, chat. Not sure why you'd bring that up. This is actually such a cool solve to look at, though. Dark Brick writes in the solution notes, my favorite part of Opus Magnum is when Zorflax said it's chambering time and single-handedly cut the amount of participants in this year's Weeklies by 50%.
Ouch. One thing I do not take responsibility for is making this week 1. I would not have put this anywhere near week 1. I would have put my other puzzle, maybe. Actually, the week 2 puzzle would have been a pretty decent week 1, but... So that part, I will not be accepting tomatoes. You can save those ones for Bist or Haxton or someone.
Yes, I can't claim any yeah, I definitely don't wish to claim any responsibility for that decision either.
Gooey does not deserve your tomatoes, unless Gooey wants them.
Absolutely not.
Honestly, the submission numbers for some are actually quite solid. It was just instructions.
Yeah. I mean, and anyway, this solve is demonstrating to everyone that there's actually a lot more space in these chambers than there would first appear to be.
I think if you if you actually compare the sheer amount of hexes in a vacuum compared to like other like production tournament puzzles, I think this is what 13 times 8 is 104. That's more than almost every other production tournament puzzle. I think the average for a production tournament puzzle is like 60 hexes or something. I am somewhat pulling that number out of my arse though, so don't quote me on that. Alright. So you're actually...
Of course.
Hmm?
So actually having a production puzzle with 27 hex chambers would be even more generous.
Oh, it would have been very generous. Next up is Greenfield. Old Vapor. Oi! That's some pretty nice overlap tech. Isn't there some really weird overlap conduit tech? Yeah, overlap interacts very strangely with the conduit in ways that I'm not fully able to articulate because I'm not the best on overlap. Anyway, Greenfield writes in the solution notes, the solution title is overlapped. Get it? I must have been really drunk last night because I don't remember anything. I fear this is going to break catastrophically if I touch it. I'll just leave it alone until I can get a recycling team here. Alchemist H. Green.
This is very cute. I love the ways that overlap enables just very clean construction here. It's fun.
I like the lore explanation was that the alchemist was drunk and didn't know how he got to this point.
I mean, alcohol is so easy to make in the Opus Magnum universe. I'm surprised. I would expect most alchemists to have a drinking problem.
What do you mean? Courage potion is good for you, right?
What was the life expectancy of the people in universe who have drunk Courage Potion? Not that long, was it?
Alright. Next up, we have Ghost by Hello Jasper. I nearly said Ghost.
Been so excited for this.
Wait, what's Ghost's cost at single throughput? So anyway, is this, dare I say, min cost, or?
It certainly bears a lot of resemblance to what I would expect min cost for this puzzle to be. And I would trust Hello Jasper to come up with it if it was. So
Hello Jasper saying in the chat, pretty sure it's min. Alright, I'm fully ready to take your word for it.
well, that's very interesting. Does it just permanently live with that water waste in the chamber?
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, it gets
That's
passed
amazing.
back.
Wow.
What is it? Wow, it just builds up water waste.
That was the water waste that Bist wanted to see, and she left before it showed up.
No, I was gonna say, to any aspiring alchemists watching this, production cabinets are very difficult to repair when they get water damage. So don't let water build up in them like this, unless you really know what you're doing. Waterlogging is the #1 cause of production cabinet malfunctioning.
Kelly Reeses is asking whether or not one of the 4 track hexes could be removed. I'm pretty sure there is a motion that is not possible to do with only 3, but I'm not spotting it immediately at the moment. Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, the atom movements just don't work if you've only got 3, as far as I can see. Oh yeah, and of course you can't even access all the hexes of the glyph.
Yeah, so you get that swing. So you need that one. You need that one. Yeah, I'm not seeing how you can get away with anything less than all 4. So you definitely need these two. You're all That hex is mandatory. There's 3 different access points.
Yeah, it's a simple channels Cosette's argument. Yeah.
Because I know in a free space puzzle, you could. Oh no, yeah, it uses all 4 channels. Yeah. I think that's just the argument dead. Unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, this is very cool. I always love seeing Hella Jasper's cost solves for puzzles where cost is not one of the primary metrics.
Yeah, it's because it's 3 in the morning and I got dispersion mixed with unification. Because unification, you only need 3 track hexes. Kelly Oasis, if you're dumb, I'm a fucking moron.
I was just going to look at the other showcases. We've only got 2 more, I think, haven't we?
Only 2 more. One of them.
Yeah, series and.
Oh yeah.
Ambiguous.
Yep. Next up is series with an aesthetic solve. Not the usual Bestagon. The chambers absolutely did not allow for a Bestagon at all. From what I remember seeing in the Discord, it did not spark joy. Series writes in the solution notes, this solution, despite my general enjoyment of the aesthetic, is aggravating for several reasons. First and most important is the fact that due to geometric constraints, it's outright impossible to assemble the center product without moving a conduit or moving the product itself. The reason for this is there's no combination of bonder and arm position that allows for full access, which is necessary to use a bonder with only single atom inputs. The other aggravating factor is that I'm certain that I could do better with this layout. I know there's cycles to be saved somewhere, but I'm out of time to do it. I assume the center product is the moonstone.
Yeah, it has to be. The whole thing has to be flipped upside down because of the order in which the 2 central atoms come in.
Oh yeah, yeah. A lot of pivoting here, actually.
I think I called one of the other sum puzzles a piston paradise. I think this solve also qualifies as one of those.
This is a very satisfying piston heaven paradise.
You pissed in heaven? Disgusting.
Nah, there was a firm commitment to layout aesthetic, and I respect the soul for that. Why are the showcases ranked? Instead of using the showcase AHK, I just repurposed the sum AHK. That may instill something of a bias towards the showcase souls, but it really does not mean anything.
No, it means that some of the showcases are better than others.
The numbers don't lie. Some showcases are better than others. Sorry, everyone else. NB Ventus is the winner. Hang on, what was the solution name? New Solution 3. New Solution 3 is the winner. Congratulations, NB Ventus. Your winner. This was the solve that came in just barely after the deadline, actually. That's right.
Oh right, yes, they were talking in the chat about it. Was there something that they wanted to say? Are there any notes for this? Or...
No notes. All right. Guess we'll get to the solution screen. Here we go. All right. Well, what'd I end up with? 3 hour, 20-minute stream. Yeah.
It's positively brisk for you. Well done.
Shit, I don't think I've had a stream clock in under 4 hours in a very long time. Of course, that was helped in no small part by the fact that instructions was remarkably quick. for certain reasons.
Yeah. I feel like you only really did 1.5 metrics worth, if that.
I was contracted for 2 metrics and I only did 1.5. I've shortchanged Bist here. Alright. It was actually really fun to come back and do some Opus Magnum streaming again. Yeah, I don't know, in the weeks leading up to it, I'm like, alright, let me just, knock this out for the Weeklies crew. But I've actually, in the days leading up, I was starting to really look forward to this, and it was cool to come back. Thanks for coming on, Gooey. You're an absolute pleasure to commentate with.
Oh, no, not at all. Thank you very much for having me. I was a little bit nervous. Having not, this is I'm brand new to the Weeklies gang, so to speak, and I've not been on mic before, but no, this was great fun. I'm always happy to play the nagging mother figure, trying to chivvy people along a little bit. So I don't know. I hope that I contributed, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to some of the streams that we have got coming up. I mean, this next puzzle is a real doozy, and some of the others that we've got in the pipeline this year are really exciting. So I hope everyone really looks forward to all of them. And yeah, thank you very much for having me and for coming along to this week 1 stream.
You're very welcome. Thank you also for Bist for chipping in, and for Haxton and everyone else who chipped in with the jewel box puzzle. And to everyone for submitting and for watching. And I will be back because, spoiler alert, there is at least one more Zorflex puzzle in the works for this year. And it was the one that I actually was like wanting to. It's like I'd actually call it like a full-blooded Zorflex puzzle. Hopefully, so I'll probably stream that one too. And I don't know. Who knows? I'll probably chip in and commentate whenever it doesn't absolutely wreck my sleeping pattern. So until next time, thank you for watching.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.